What happens if you're the king of the jungle but return to the present day? Today, we'll be recapping Soul Station Druid. Our story starts with a young man named Suho, who was just your typical guy, busy texting his mum like any responsible son. Normally, he loved hanging out with his friends, but fate had other plans for him that day. As Suho grumbled his way through the event, fate decided to throw another curveball at him. He accidentally bumped into a stranger and received a scolding that made him feel like he'd been dunked in a pool of embarrassment. He quickly apologized, but deep down, he couldn't help feeling a mix of disgust and frustration. Just when Suho thought things couldn't get any worse, chaos struck the city in the form of a lightning storm. One strike after another, the sky turned into a dazzling spectacle of destruction. It was like watching a fireworks display gone horribly wrong. Suho stood there in awe, unable to comprehend the sheer devastation unfolding before his eyes. People were dying left and right, and all he could think about was how to save himself. With panic driving his every move, Suho sprinted through the chaos, desperately trying to escape the wrath of the relentless lightning. But just as he thought his luck had run out, he spotted a truck barreling towards him. In that heart-stopping moment, it felt like his life was flashing before his eyes. And then, a miraculous twist of fate occurred. Suho woke up, drenched in sweat, only to find himself in an unfamiliar place. As his eyes adjusted to the surroundings, he looked up and saw not one but two moons in the night sky. Strange creatures roamed the land, unlike anything he had ever encountered before. To say Suho was bewildered would be an understatement. Now, completely disoriented and naked, yes, naked, Suho found himself in a whole new world. Questions flooded his mind, but there were no answers in sight. Just when he thought things couldn't get any crazier, a life or death encounter with a bear loomed before him. But hold on tight, because this time, Suho witnessed an epic showdown between the bear and a pack of wolves. Talk about a jaw-dropping moment! Reality had taken a vacation, leaving Suho scratching his head in disbelief. How did he end up here? In a world where survival is everything, Suho dashes with all his might, unaware of his destination, but driven by an unstoppable need to run. Suddenly, a mysterious window startles him, announcing that his stamina has increased by 1. Caught off guard, Suho stumbles and falls to the ground. Undeterred by his fall, Suho's body now craves nourishment. Surrounded by an array of fruits, he hesitates, unsure if they are safe to eat. After all, this unfamiliar world offers no guarantees. Filled with trepidation, he resists temptation but eventually succumbs, taking a bite. Just as he's about to consume the fruit, a rustling sound disrupts the silence. In this untamed wilderness, every noise serves as a warning. Concealed in the grass, a lurking figure threatens Suho's life. Without warning, a colossal snake lunges forward, ready to strike. Yet fate twists the predator's fortune, as an even greater force, a giant frog, from above intervenes and turns it into prey. In a matter of minutes, Suho narrowly escapes death twice in this enigmatic realm. Uncertain of how long he can survive, he realizes that miracles can't happen at every turn. To endure, he must acquire skills and knowledge, for each day in this place is a grueling contest where only the strongest prevail. As 66 days pass, Suho clings to life, relentlessly pursued by a pack of wolves. He knows they will never cease their chase until he takes his last breath. Accepting his new reality, he understands that constant self-improvement is the only wise choice. A year elapses, and Suho has grown immensely since his arrival. He now possesses the strength to lift heavy objects, aiding in his quest for sustenance. Having secured a giant banana as his daily nourishment, Suho remains haunted by the persistent presence of a white wolf cub fixated on him. As he devours the fruit, an ominous feeling envelops him, and he turns to discover a charging gorilla. It's a battle of survival, but Suho's experience grants him the skills to triumph without relying on miracles. The immense gorilla crashes to the ground, its colossal size causing it to stumble. As it regains composure, it realizes it had nearly slain a vengeful wolf. Like any wild predator, the gorilla detests being challenged by a weaker creature. It bellows, attempting to frighten the wolf away, but the determined predator refuses to retreat. The gorilla strikes, but its efforts fall short, leaving it no choice but to strike again. In a courageous act, Suho intervenes, thrusting a blade into the gorilla's eye, intensifying its fury beyond measure. The wolf seizes the opportunity to flee, yet Suho cannot escape. Now, he must confront an enraged gorilla, more determined than ever to claim his life. But just as the climax approaches, we snap back to the present, Suho in the real world, surrounded by doctors. He recounts his extraordinary tale, attempting to explain the unfathomable encounters he endured. Although skeptical, the doctors find something intriguing about his story, prompting one to question why Suho would engage in a battle he knew he couldn't win against the gorilla. With conviction, Suho enlightens them about the essence of fighting and the necessity of overcoming greater adversaries to become stronger and more powerful. He reveals that no matter where one goes, there will always be a ruler. On the other side, tensions reach their peak as Gorilla prepares to deliver the final blow to Suho. But just when all hope seems lost, a surprising turn of events unfolds. Out of nowhere, a majestic white wolf leaps into action, lunging at the gorilla with ferocious determination. Gorilla is taken aback, unable to believe his eyes. The very creature that had once sought Suho's demise is now his fearless protector, willing to sacrifice its own life for him. The entire group seizes this unexpected opportunity, launching a united assault on the gorilla. Suho is left dumbfounded as he watches the wolves, his former adversaries, rallying to save him. Overwhelmed by the intense clash, Suho loses consciousness, but the wolves show restraint. They hold back their aggression because the pup Suho had selflessly saved earlier happens to be the king's son. In a remarkable display of honor, the wolf pack acknowledges Suho's noble act. As time passes, the boundaries between enemies and friends blur. Suho becomes an integral part of the wolf pack, embraced as if he had always been one of them. The once lonely boy discovers a sense of belonging and acceptance among these remarkable animals, who were the first to embrace him in this strange new world. Fast forward to Suho's 31st year, and he is virtually unrecognizable from his former self. What was once a timid, vulnerable boy has transformed into a fearless warrior, fearlessly taking on formidable adversaries, including gigantic snakes. He now stands ready to do anything to protect his newfound family, the wolves. Together they embark on hunting expeditions, easily taking down even the largest of boars. The passing years fail to yield another human like Suho in this wild realm. He forges deep bonds with his lupine companions, experiencing both the joy of making new friends and the sorrow of losing cherished ones. Initially uncertain of his survival in this untamed land, Suho defies the odds, remaining standing stronger than ever, even after centuries of challenges. Mesmerized by Suho's incredible tale, the Doctor finds it the most captivating story he has ever heard. After all, no ordinary human can live for 500 years, let alone become the revered king of wolves. Intrigued, the Doctor poses the pivotal question: how did Suho manage to return? With a reflective gaze, Suho begins recounting the tale of the war he ignited against the gorillas at Moonlight Hill. Leading the wolves into battle, Suho was prepared to claim their greatest victory yet. The conflict erupted, resulting in a brutal clash where lives were mercilessly lost. Suho set his sights on the king gorilla, knowing that defeating it would seal their triumph. With unwavering determination, he closed in on his target, victory seemingly within his grasp. But then, in a twist of fate, something extraordinary occurred, and Suho vanished from the world without a trace. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a group of individuals scours the desolate ruins of a decimated city, desperately searching for something of great importance. Suddenly, their device starts emitting signals, indicating that a momentous event is about to unfold. Fear grips them, and they scramble to flee as a mysterious portal materializes before them. A brave girl brandishing a sword stands her ground, ready to face whatever emerges from the portal. As it opens, the figure that steps through is none other than Suho himself. We kick things off with a bang as a portal opens, crackling with enormous energy. In a flash, it disappears, leaving behind a bewildered Suho, lying on the ground in all his naked glory. But hold on, folks, this isn't your typical day at the park. Turns out everyone thinks this is just another returner. No biggie, right? Fast forward to Suho waking up in a hospital, surrounded by doctors and a feeling of disorientation. Cue the suspenseful music. One doctor, eager to document Suho's experience, assures him that he's perfectly fine and will be discharged soon. But wait, what's this? Suho stops the doctor, a mischievous smile playing on his lips. Turns out this is the first human he's talked to in thousands of years. Talk about a plot twist. The doctor, intrigued by this unexpected encounter, knows he's struck gold with this information. Meanwhile, at the top secret Awakener Bureau headquarters, we meet our mysterious girl and her boss. They're discussing none other than Suho, the rare F-rank patient. The boss explains that if Suho were an E-rank patient, he'd be showered with government benefits. Intrigued by Suho's extraordinary journey, the girl wonders how an F-rank managed to go through a portal. Could it be sheer luck? The boss reveals the shocking truth in the doctor's report. Suho is acting like a wolf and suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. The girl, determined to uncover the truth, decides to deliver the report in person. Hold on to your seats, folks, because this roller coaster is about to take off. Back at the hospital, Suho finds himself lost in thought, reminiscing about the thousands of years he spent in that bizarre world. 2 weeks have passed since his return, yet he's still struggling to adjust to his life on Earth. He yearns for the wild adventures and the companions he left behind. But duty calls. The nurse interrupts his daydream, reminding him that it's time for lunch. Hungry and lost in contemplation, Suho decides to satisfy his stomach before delving deeper into his memories. And just when you think things couldn't get any more exciting, enter Choi Soo-young, a captivating figure who bursts into Suho's room like a force of nature. Sparks fly as Suho recognizes her scent and recalls their encounter when he first returned from the portal. But wait, he's a changed man now, no longer as dangerous as before. Phew, what a relief. Curiosity piqued, Suho asks Soo-young about the Awakener Bureau. She spills the beans, revealing that it's an organization that helps returnees like him readjust to society. Eager to gather more information, Soo-young requests Suho's consent to share his details. But hold your breath, folks, because Suho's attention is drawn to something unexpected, the humble pen. It's been ages since he held one. Caught up in the moment, he starts doodling a magnificent wolf on it. Soo-young, growing impatient, can't help but be annoyed. She questions his artistic skills, but Suho smugly informs her that he's already a master artist. The plot thickens. With disappointment etched on her face, Soo-young wonders if Suho accomplished anything useful in his time away. Suho, quick to correct her, reminds her that it wasn't just a few years, it was thousands. The time difference is mind-boggling. The woman still doesn't believe him. As Soo-young hands him his Awakener ID card, she suggests that he reunite with his long-lost family. Cue the tears of joy. As Suho's world fills with newfound purpose, he realizes that his family, whom he thought were gone forever, are alive and well. The excitement is palpable as he eagerly anticipates the long-awaited reunion. Suho's world was turned upside down. He had finally reunited with his real family, but in the process, he had lost his forest family, with whom he had shared countless years. The weight of this realization hit him hard. As he checked the report, he discovered the heartbreaking news that both his parents had passed away on the day of his return, leaving only his brother Junho alive. In a rush of emotions, Suho leapt out of bed and hurried to meet with the doctor. He desperately asked for a favor, to which the doctor responded, "What help can I give?" Undeterred, Suho revealed that his little brother was still alive and that he needed to meet him immediately. The doctor, aware of Suho's fragile state and recent return, tried to advise him against diving back into society so soon, but Suho was in no mood for advice and with ruthless determination ordered the doctor to help him. Reluctantly, the doctor agreed to assist, but only under one condition. Later, we find Suho sitting in a taxi, ready to leave the hospital. The doctor, whom Suho affectionately called Dr. Baldy, warned the taxi driver about Suho's condition. As Suho embarked on his journey, the doctor's nurse curiously questioned the doctor's generosity. Why would he go to such lengths for someone like Suho? The doctor responded, explaining that Suho's story, although possibly fantastical, intrigued him like no other. He saw Suho as a potential living Frankenstein, a captivating enigma that the government had overlooked. Back in the doctor's office, he asked the nurse to get the broken door handle repaired. Surprised, she asked how it had happened. It turned out that Suho, even in the normal world, possessed an otherworldly strength acquired through his thousands of years of experience. This revelation excited the doctor, as it could serve as evidence of the authenticity of Suho's extraordinary story. After all, it was only the second time the door handle had broken. Meanwhile, Suho found himself stuck in traffic, listening to the radio in his car. Startling news echoed through the speakers. The city was under attack by rampaging monsters. The defense forces had managed to regain control, but not without casualties. As Suho absorbed this information, the radio host also mentioned the SBFC Championship, a tournament among the Awakeners to determine the best. The Russian Bear, ranked 34th, was facing off against Beyond Horizon, ranked 48th, with the winner earning a chance to challenge Japan's current number 1. Suho found the concept intriguing, yet unfamiliar. The excited taxi driver, however, appeared nonchalant, as if such events were commonplace. Suho realized that the world had changed significantly during his absence, and this was just the beginning. Curiosity piqued, Suho questioned the driver about the hunting grounds mentioned on the radio. Confusion filled the air as the driver realized that Suho had been absent for the past 10 years. Eager to enlighten him, the driver agreed to share everything. He revealed that a decade ago, a door to a different world had opened, not just in Korea but worldwide, marking the disastrous Day of the Great Disaster. As a result, Earth became connected to numerous other realms, and hordes of monsters invaded. The devastation was unimaginable, resulting in the loss of 10% of the global population in a single day. Governments across the globe deployed armies, but they quickly discovered that conventional forces stood no chance against the monster onslaught. Those who had disappeared during the Great Disaster became known as awakeners and were granted licenses to become mercenaries. It was their duty to eliminate the monsters in exchange for payment. Over time, mercenary work evolved into a full-fledged industry, with guilds forming and life becoming dependent on their services. They were humanity's only defense against the relentless monsters. Intrigued by the concept of being a mercenary, Suho asked the driver how he could become one. Laughing, the driver explained that it was impossible for an ordinary human. Only awakeners could aspire to become mercenaries, but they had to pass the mercenary examination at the Awakeners Bureau. Suho listened intently, reminiscing about his past life as a mighty warrior, where battles were his way of life rather than a mere occupation. The idea of taking an examination seemed daunting, yet he couldn't deny the stirring excitement within him. The taxi arrived at its destination, a house where Suho was finally going to meet a family member after 10 long years. Nervously, he stood outside, contemplating his next steps. Suddenly, an elderly woman noticed him and stared intently. To break the silence, Suho mustered the courage to ask her if she knew Junho. Little did he know that his question would trigger a wave of anger. The woman unleashed her frustration, vehemently denying the existence of anyone by that name in the building. Confused, Suho began to question whether he had the wrong address. Just as he considered leaving, a voice called out from inside, a kid named Gunwoo. Suho eavesdropped on Gunwoo and the old woman's conversation about relentless moneylenders harassing them daily. Seeking some answers, Suho checked their mailbox, discovering that his brother was drowning in debt. He retreated, deep in thought, contemplating the nature of true power. In the world he had left behind, strength reigned supreme, but now it seemed that money held the true power in the normal world. With these thoughts swirling in his mind, Suho embarked on a new journey, uncertain of what lay ahead. His return to the real world had revealed a vastly changed society, filled with monsters, mercenaries, and the dominance of money. Our hero, Suho, is on a mission to become a legendary mercenary. He heads straight to the prestigious Awakener Bureau, pumped up and ready to prove himself. But alas, his dreams are crushed when his application gets rejected. What? How could they do this to our determined protagonist? Suho objects, expressing his disbelief. After all, he's a total freak who just returned to Earth 2 weeks ago. The receptionist sympathetically explains that most people perish when the portal opens, and they can't just let anyone become a hunter. Harsh, but fair, right? Now here's where things get interesting. Suho finds out that he's 4 Awakener points short of being eligible for the exam. Cue dramatic music. The receptionist suggests he either join Awakener school or manually increase his points. Until then, no exam for Suho. Talk about a setback on his path to mercenary greatness. But wait, what's that? As Suho is leaving, he spots a captivating bounty poster. It catches his eye like a moth to a flame. The poster boasts the name Suwon Field's Goblins, a monster that's just begging to be defeated. Suho's curiosity and determination are piqued. Could this be his chance to prove himself? While riding in a taxi, our hero can't help but ask the driver about the abundance of walls surrounding the city. The driver gladly fills him in on the secret. Seoul is divided into 12 areas, protected by these walls and multiple gates. It's like a whole new world within the city. Finally arriving at Gate 27, Suho's excitement is palpable. He's about to enter the hunting grounds, and not even a smidge of nervousness or fear can be detected. He's a true warrior at heart, but hold on. 2 military guards abruptly halt Suho's progress, demanding to know his business. With confidence radiating from his every pore, Suho responds with a single word: hunting. The guards, unimpressed, ask to see his mercenary license. To their surprise, and his, Suho confesses he has none. And just when things couldn't get more intense, a wild, monster-filled car chase appears out of nowhere. The guards shift their attention to the unfolding chaos, leaving Suho unattended for a brief moment. Sneaky Suho takes advantage of the situation, disappearing like a phantom. Now, our resourceful hero knows he needs to prepare for his mercenary endeavors. He starts by gathering essential items like a car and a smartphone. After all, one must be well equipped to hunt monsters effectively. As the sun sets and the sky turns a mesmerizing shade of blue, Suho finds himself lost in nostalgic memories. It's a serene moment that reminds him of his past, the countless years he spent honing his physical skills. And guess what? He hasn't lost a single one of them. They're as sharp as ever, ready to be unleashed on the world. With his goal of becoming a mercenary burning brightly in his heart, Suho stumbles upon a group of monsters surrounding a defenseless creature. This, he decides, is the perfect opportunity to put his skills to the test and protect mankind. In a breathtaking display of strength and prowess, Suho engages the monsters, dispatching them with ruthless efficiency. It's like he's reliving his battles against the otherworldly creatures he once faced. The adrenaline rushes through his veins as victory is secured. But wait, out of the blue, a mysterious screen pops up before him, displaying the intriguing message, "Searching for your class." Suddenly it feels as if Suho is immersed in a high-tech gaming experience, with screens surrounding him like an immersive virtual world. What could this system error mean? Suho is left puzzled, eager to unravel this enigma. Suho finds himself under attack. The monsters think they have the upper hand, but little do they know that Suho is about to teach them a lesson they won't soon forget. With an effortless display of skill, he swiftly defeats each and every monster that dares to challenge him. Just as Suho revels in his victory, a puzzling message appears, indicating a system error and a failed attempt to reset his stats. Perplexed, he recalls similar messages from another world, where he once maxed out his physical abilities but stopped leveling up. To his surprise, it seems that this mysterious system has followed him to Earth. Suddenly, an achievement pops up before Suho's eyes. He realizes that this might be his awakening, a chance to uncover the true extent of his powers. With a total of 7 points at his disposal, Suho decides to spend them wisely. To his amazement, bread and water materialize before him, and he also notices a dying dog that he had saved earlier. With a twinge of sadness, Suho watches the dog pass away, making a solemn promise to take care of the orphaned puppy. Gazing into the innocent eyes of the puppy, Suho makes a life-changing decision. He chooses the pup as his loyal companion, forging a bond amidst loss and newfound responsibility. As morning breaks, Suho and the puppy bid their final farewell to the fallen mother dog, paying their respects. At Gate 27, a crowd eagerly awaits its opening. To everyone's astonishment, Suho emerges, accompanied by the defeated monsters he had vanquished. The once doubtful guards now stand in utter disbelief. How could someone effortlessly dispatch all these creatures and bring them to this very spot? Unfazed by the shocked onlookers, Suho heads to the counter to claim his well-deserved reward. He is handed a hefty sum of $2,100 in cash, a bounty for his goblin slaying and blood crystal collecting. Although he lacks a bank account, the receptionist suggests he register to make future transactions smoother. Curious about the valuable blood crystals, Suho engages the receptionist in conversation. She reveals that these precious gems were contained within the goblins he had dispatched, fetching a handsome price of $200 each. Realizing the potential for profit, Suho sees an opportunity to earn money doing what he excels at, hunting. As our story unfolds, we find ourselves in a store where a man discusses his new job as a truck driver with the shop owner. To our surprise, this man is none other than Suho's brother, Junho. The shop owner congratulates him, aware that this job will help alleviate his financial troubles. On his way back, Junho encounters Money, a menacing figure demanding payment for borrowed funds. They rough him up, revealing his failure to meet their expectations. In desperation, Junho hands over $2,240, the principal amount and interest for the month. However, this gesture falls short of the lender's demands, leading to further aggression. Overwhelmed and on the verge of despair, Junho breaks down, pleading for forgiveness and vowing to repay his debts within the given time. But just as his tormentors persist in their violent acts, a commanding voice pierces through the air, freezing them in their tracks. All eyes turn toward the source of the voice, revealing Suho in a furious rage, determined to protect his brother. In an instant, Junho recognizes his savior, none other than his own brother Suho. Suho walks towards his long-lost brother, finally confronting him and demanding confirmation if he is indeed Park Junho. But before we delve into their intense encounter, let's take a trip back in time to a fateful day before the great disaster. Even in this flashback, things aren't much different for poor Junho. Bullies at school relentlessly attack him, leaving him defenseless and desperate for help. And just when it seems all hope is lost, he spots his brother nearby and calls out for assistance. To Junho's dismay, Suho doesn't react at all, not even sparing a glance in his direction as Junho cries out for aid. Perhaps Suho doubted his own abilities back then, before he became a fearless warrior in the wild. Junho realizes the bitter truth about his brother's uselessness. Fast forward to the day of the great disaster, where Junho sits in front of the television when suddenly emergency news flashes across the screen, reporting a massive explosion. Panic sets in as Junho realizes Suho is still not home, and he rushes to the door, only to be stopped by his aunt and uncle. A small relief washes over them as they discover Junho is safe at home, but their hearts sink when he mentions Suho's absence. Just then, a colossal explosion shatters their building, leaving devastation in its wake. As Junho dusts himself off from the rubble, he finds himself face to face with a monstrous eye staring back at him. From that day onward, Junho couldn't care less if his brother was alive or dead. Their relationship had never been strong enough to inspire concern. Now, let's return to the present, where Junho stands in stunned silence after coming face to face with his long-lost brother. Surprisingly, Suho remains calm and cracks a joke about how much older he looks, even though he's the younger sibling. Junho, still reeling from the shock, musters the courage to ask how Suho is alive and well, but before they can continue their conversation, an intrusive moneylender interrupts, believing the brothers to be mentally ill. This infuriates Suho, and he can't bear to see his brother insulted any longer. In an impressive display of strength, Suho swiftly smashes the moneylender's head into the ground. This newfound power shocks Junho, who had never witnessed such a display before. Another individual tries to take on Suho, but he effortlessly stops the attack mid-air, snapping the assailant's leg within seconds. The horrifying scene prompts the third person to beg for mercy, claiming he never laid a finger on Junho. In an act of surprising generosity, Suho hands over all the money he earned from hunting monsters to the moneylender. With the ordeal behind them, the brothers leave the scene together. Upon arriving at Junho's apartment, Suho encounters the same grumpy granny who previously dismissed him, but her attitude has shifted. She now recognizes Suho as Junho's brother and invites them inside. As they enter, Junho proudly introduces his sleeping son Gunwoo to Suho. He emphasizes that his son is now the most important person in his life, and he would do anything for him. Curious about the child's mother, Suho learns that she left the family to live independently. Junho blames himself, believing his financial failures pushed her away. Suho suggests they sit down together and have a drink, acknowledging that there is a lot to catch up on. Junho reveals that he had always believed Suho perished in the disaster, making his reappearance as an awakener the craziest thing that has happened. Suho decides to help his brother by assessing the debt he owes, which amounts to $50,000. Junho assures him that he no longer needs to worry because he has secured a new job that will enable him to repay all his debts. Curious about Junho's new occupation, Suho inquires further and discovers that he now works at a store. Suho's eyes light up with an idea, and he asks about the ownership of the truck Junho uses. Junho explains that the truck belonged to Granny's son, who tragically lost his life during the Great Disaster. Granny has taken on the responsibility of caring for his son, as she considers him family. Meanwhile, Gunwoo wakes up from his slumber and is delighted to find a furry companion by his side. The sight of his father and uncle together fills him with joy, and he politely requests to play with Suho's dog. With a warm smile, Suho happily agrees, brightening Gunwoo's day, as he had always longed for a dog, but couldn't afford one. Taking a moment to share his plan with Junho, Suho suggests that they work together and make a fortune, leveraging Junho's truck. He introduces the concept of monster hunting. The next day, Suho strides into the Awakener Bureau, surprising them with the news that he's leveled up overnight. The receptionist, intrigued, hands him a sleek smartphone called the X-Phone 50 and suggests he download the Awakener Bureau app for the latest updates and the mercenary exam schedule. She also mentions some problems with the stat screens, piquing Suho's confusion. In a sudden twist, a screen materializes before Suho, displaying his still labeled level 1 stats. It all makes sense now why he felt so weak. Armed with his new smartphone and all the essentials, Suho is determined to power up and embark on a thrilling monster hunting adventure. Unable to contain his excitement, Suho immediately dials his brother to share the news. Junho congratulates him on becoming a full-fledged mercenary and wishes him luck for the upcoming exam. While Junho promises to join him after completing his own job, Suho's eagerness gets the better of him, demanding his brother's immediate presence for a monster hunting spree to pay off their debts. With a gentle reminder that it's too early for such endeavors, Junho tries to reason with Suho, reminding him of his own limitations. However, Suho, unyielding to excuses, abruptly ends the call. Junho realizes his brother has undergone a remarkable transformation, no longer the feeble Junho he once knew. Eager to set off, Suho embarks on a quest to find the nearest hunting ground. A bustling crowd packed with cars awaits entry into the hunting grounds. Some brave souls venture solo, while others form formidable teams, well aware that monster hunting is no easy task. Our attention turns to a team of 5 individuals preparing themselves. 3 of them exhibit signs of nervousness despite being awakeners, while the 2 at the forefront exude an aura of readiness. Attempting to calm their teammates' nerves, they suddenly spot Suho's unexpected arrival. Curiosity piqued, the team approaches Suho. The receptionist asks for his Awakener ID, granting him access, but not before cautioning him against entering dungeons. Observing Suho confidently strolling without any weapons or equipment, seemingly unbothered by the monsters, onlookers whisper amongst themselves. The police guards join the conversation, sharing tales of Suho's previous exploits, such as his impressive feat of slaying 7 goblins at Gate 27. Intrigued by Suho's demeanor, the team decides to chase after him. However, as they enter the hunting grounds, they lose sight of their enigmatic target. Suho, eager to test his newfound abilities, begins by sprinting, pushing his limits to gauge his fighting prowess. Suddenly, a cacophony of voices engulfs Suho's surroundings. Turning his gaze, he witnesses 2 groups engaged in a ferocious sword fight, limbs being severed amidst the chaotic clash. Realizing the sheer numerical disadvantage and the considerable time it would take to eliminate them all, Suho decides to redirect his focus towards a more lucrative target, someone with a higher bounty. Fortuitously, a figure emerges with a staggering bounty of $40,000. The name, Choi Gushik. Suho contemplates leaving, but the allure of such a high bounty compels him to stay. He wonders just how formidable one must be to warrant such a price on their head. Witnessing Choi's arrival, those engaged in combat hastily flee, recognizing him as a C-ranker. Choi, unfazed by their retreat, challenges the 3 remaining combatants to face him in battle. Aware of their powerlessness against Choi, they resort to negotiation, offering anything to secure their escape. Yet Choi dismisses their pleas, finding the proposition tedious. However, just as Choi is about to crush them, Suho unexpectedly interjects, stunning everyone. Fearless and unwavering, Suho stands before Choi, seemingly unperturbed by the impending danger. Questioning Suho's identity and intentions, Choi receives no direct response. Instead, Suho brazenly asks if he is indeed the man with the $40,000 bounty. Frustrated, Choi repeats his query, only to be met with Suho's enigmatic reply, someone in dire need of money. Onlookers begin to worry for Suho, as no one in their right mind would willingly provoke a C-ranker. After all, Suho appears as nothing more than a mere child to them. Choi, disbelieving, asserts that Suho has made the worst decision of his life, insisting that it would have been better for him to stay away. Unfazed by Choi's words, Suho maintains his composure. Suddenly, an icy chill courses through Suho's body, rendering him unable to move. Choi revels in his victory, explaining that he can exert control over those who meet his gaze for more than 5 seconds. Ordering his men to break every bone in Suho's body, Choi's cruel intentions are abruptly interrupted as Suho lands a powerful punch. Baffled by Suho's unexpected retaliation, both Choi and the surrounding spectators fail to comprehend how he managed to break free from Choi's grasp. As Choi gazes upon Suho's face, he glimpses something truly chilling, a sinister and malevolent expression, hinting at Suho's readiness to deliver a brutal demise. Realizing his fatal error, Choi is gripped by profound fear, understanding that his life is now in grave jeopardy.
Suho, our fearless protagonist, finds himself facing off against Choi, a formidable opponent. It looks like Suho is in big trouble. Just when Suho's about to get smacked, Choi's plans are foiled by a last-second move from Suho. Using his incredible ability, Choi gets bound up, leaving Suho feeling pretty smug, thinking the danger is over. But wait, hold on to your swords. Suho's victory dance is short-lived because he underestimates his opponent once again. Suho's all like, "You think you can defeat me? Ha! Your bind ability is nothing compared to my skills." With a swift kick, Suho sends Choi flying like a ragdoll. The other 3 characters in the scene are gobsmacked by Suho's display of power. It's like they just witnessed a magic trick that made their jaws drop. Meanwhile, Suho finds himself surrounded by Choi's goons, each carrying swords dripping with the blood of their unfortunate victims. Intense, right? Suho doesn't flinch. He challenges Choi's lackeys, daring them to fight him too. These poor guys, realizing it's mission impossible, start begging for mercy and spilling their guts. They spill the beans on how Choi forced them to work for him, and how they're now seeing a golden opportunity to escape the clutches of their muscle-bound tyrant. Suho, ever the clever one, demands a rope from one of the 3 guys who witnessed the whole spectacle. Choi, in his fury, calls them traitors, but they reveal their true feelings, confessing that they've always despised him. Score 1 for the underdogs. Choi, realizing he can't do it all alone, tries to make a deal with Suho. He promises to use all his influence and power to make Suho the king of the city, if only he lets him go. Suho, not one to fall for empty promises, responds by delivering a knockout kick that leaves Choi unconscious. Now, Suho turns to Choi's men once more, demanding their bounty. But they still claim to be worthless, insisting that killing them won't do any good. But here comes the twist. The three hunters who've been observing the chaos drop a truth bomb on Suho. It turns out every single one of Choi's goons is a criminal with a bounty on their heads. Jackpot! Seeing an opportunity for some extra cash, Suho decides to add these criminals to his hunting list. Cha-ching! Later, the three hunters, grateful for Suho's help, offer him a ride in their car and express their thanks. Little do they know, Suho wasn't there to lend a helping hand in the first place. Classic Suho. Curiosity piqued, Suho asks the hunters about their special powers. The leader spills the beans, revealing that he became a sword fighter after awakening and even learned some badass skills from books. Suho, utterly surprised by this revelation, decides he wants in on this book learning action. The hunters find it odd that Suho, with all his strength, is unaware of skill books. They exchange bewildered glances. Finally, unable to contain his curiosity any longer, Suho asks the hunters about the favor they wanted to ask. He's ready to lend a hand. Meanwhile, on the other side of the story, Captain Kang and his team emerge from a portal, looking worse for wear. Captain Kong, not one to mince words, berates his team for acting like a bunch of crybabies. He even threatens to get them fired because he's had enough of their incompetence. But his partner manages to calm him down, reminding him of the unfair reality of the Awakener Bureau. Rich and privileged parents use their influence to make their kids hunters, hiring pros to do the dirty work while their kids reap the rewards. Captain Kong, fueled by his sense of justice, finds this system incredibly unfair. Just when Captain Kong wonders if anything interesting happened today, he learns that someone delivered 10 Ravagers, including a C-rank boss named Choi. Now he's really shocked, because defeating a C-ranker isn't child's play. He can't help but wonder who the mastermind behind this victory could be. The guards spill the beans, revealing that the person responsible for the chaos is none other than a newbie F-ranker. Captain Kang's eyes widen with disbelief. He demands to know where this F-ranker went, and the guards inform him that the last sighting was inside a portal. With newfound determination, Captain Kong races towards the portal, eager to witness Suho's unbelievable strength with his own eyes. Captain Kong turned to the operator, curiosity brimming in his eyes, and asked the pivotal question, which door did Suho use to enter the portal? Meanwhile, on the other side, Suho had already stepped into the portal, sporting a snazzy new set of clothes that, to his surprise, were able to withstand the dimensional energy. These special garments didn't come cheap, but boy, were they worth it. As Suho took in his surroundings, he couldn't help but notice something peculiar. With an intrigued expression, he turned to his partner and asked, "Hey, what's that thing over there?" His partner eagerly explained that it was a door, a gateway to one of the 38 different dungeons that hunters could explore. And guess what? The door they had just used happened to be number 24. Talk about luck. But just as Suho's excitement reached its peak, the door suddenly vanished into thin air. Perplexed, he inquired about this puzzling disappearance. That's when he learned the harsh truth. Doors would only reappear once the dungeon was cleared. Suho couldn't help but feel a twinge of impatience. Clearing a whole dungeon sounded like a monumental task. Did it mean he had to slay every single monster? The mere thought of it made Suho shudder. He wasn't exactly keen on spending eternity in there. Thankfully, Suho's partner had some reassuring news. All they needed to do was defeat the strongest monster within the dungeon, and the door would open once again. This revelation filled Suho with newfound vigor. The desire to hunt down the strongest adversary ignited within him like a raging fire. Fueled by determination, Suho wasted no time and set off on his quest to find the fearsome beast that awaited him. However, not everyone shared Suho's unwavering enthusiasm. Concern crept into his partner's mind. What if Suho got lost? After all, he wasn't exactly a master tracker. Losing Suho would spell doom for them both, as they would be trapped within the dimension forever. Realizing the gravity of the situation, his partner embarked on a frantic search to find his reckless comrade. Meanwhile, the dimension buzzed with monstrous creatures, hungering for a fight. Suddenly, a voice rang out, followed by a swift and deadly kick that dispatched one of the creatures in an instant. Suho had arrived, ready to unleash his merciless wrath upon any foe that crossed his path. With no mercy in his heart, he engaged in a ruthless battle, leaving a trail of defeated monsters in his wake. Amidst the chaos, Suho stumbled upon a valuable blood crystal. A profitable find indeed. Leaving behind the blood-soaked battleground, Suho continued his quest to encounter an even more formidable adversary. However, when his partner finally caught up to him, he was met with a grim scene. A horde of goblin corpses littered the ground, resembling a scene straight out of a gory massacre. Suho had reaped skill points from his relentless slaughter, enough to unlock a plethora of new abilities. Fascinated by the options before him, he chose to summon the ancient tree spirit, a mystical being he had encountered in another world. Commanding the tree spirit to search for more goblins, Suho utilized its unique connection to nature, communicating through trees and grass, to expand his hunting ground. Examining his stat screen, Suho's eyes widened with delight as he discovered he had leveled up. His achievement count now stood at an impressive 345. A new option caught his attention: search and track. Recognizing their significance, he swiftly invested his remaining points into acquiring both skills. Suho's newfound abilities came into play as he marked the entire area using the search skill. Guided by the tracking skill, he finally stumbled upon a presence that surpassed the mere goblin threat. It was something powerful and intimidating, a perfect target for Suho's prowess. Eager for battle, he wasted no time and rushed to confront his formidable opponent, only to find his partner engaged in a desperate struggle against the monster. Frustrated and concerned, Suho shouted at his partner, reminding him of the importance of staying together and not venturing off alone. But amidst the chaos, the monster paid no heed to their conversation. Its sole focus was on unleashing carnage. Suho swiftly intervened, launching a devastating kick that sent the monster reeling. Without giving it a moment's respite, he ruthlessly unleashed blow after blow until the beast lay lifeless, defeated at his feet. In that climactic moment, Suho experienced an instant surge in power, leveling up and gaining an astonishing 120 points. Meanwhile, his partner stood in awe, shock etched across his face. He had never witnessed such a relentless and ruthless hunter in action. Suho, being the fearless and powerful hunter he is, nonchalantly questions whether the door will finally open after this impressive kill. Little did he know, this one takedown was more than enough to unlock the mysterious entrance. With their mission accomplished, they decide to make their grand exit through the portal, leaving everyone around them in utter astonishment. As they disappear before their eyes, one vigilant guard, remembering Captain Kong's orders, can't help but wonder if he should inform their esteemed leader about the return of this formidable duo. Hyung Nim, realizing the urgency of his team's meeting, bids farewell to Suho, expressing his profound gratitude for the incredible assistance he provided. They part ways, but little does Suho know that another exciting encounter awaits him just outside. Stepping out, Suho finds himself face to face with Captain Kong, who exudes a contagious enthusiasm to meet the renowned hero. The captain introduces himself as Captain Kong Min Hyuk, the fearless leader of the 27th Combat Team of the illustrious Shilla Guild. Intrigued by Suho's remarkable skills, Captain Kong requests a few minutes of his time. They find solace in a cozy bar where they can converse privately. The captain extends an enticing offer for Suho to join the prestigious Shilla Guild, assuring him a fantastic working environment. However, Suho wastes no time in politely declining the proposition, much to the captain's hidden frustration. Curiosity gets the better of Captain Kong, and he inquires whether Suho is affiliated with any other guild. If so, he promises to present an official offer to Suho's current guild. Suho insists that he operates independently, with no allegiance to any guild. Despite Captain Kong's attempts to convince him of the numerous benefits of joining the esteemed Shilla Guild, Suho stands firm in his belief that he is destined for greatness on his own terms. Returning home, Suho finds neither Junho nor his son present. He assumes they are off enjoying some well-deserved father-son bonding time, which warms his heart. Seeking a moment of respite, Suho climbs to a rooftop and reclines to rest. However, his relaxation is short-lived as Granny playfully scolds him for being idle, reminding him of his youth and untapped potential. Suho, being the helpful soul he is, decides to lend Granny a hand. With a mischievous twinkle in her eye, Granny teasingly questions Suho's age, suggesting that he may be aging backward. Suho playfully retorts, claiming he has actually reversed the aging process. While Granny may not fully grasp the concept, she accepts it, noting that the world has become stranger over the years. She lovingly advises Suho to take care of himself, now that he has a family to cherish, emphasizing that losing a loved one is an indescribable pain. Assuring Granny that he is invincible, Suho is met with a cautionary warning, as Granny reveals that those who boast such confidence are often the first to meet their demise. Just as their conversation comes to an end, Junho and Gunwoo return, eagerly inquiring about Suho's whereabouts. Granny points them upstairs, informing them that Suho is patiently waiting. In a heartwarming gesture, Suho presents Junho with an envelope containing a whopping $50,000, the means to pay off all his debts. Initially overwhelmed by the unexpected generosity, Junho hesitates to accept the money, fearing his inability to repay such a substantial sum. Tears stream down his face, overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of Suho's kindness. Suho gently urges him to cease the tears and embark on his journey to financial freedom. Grateful to the heavens for this life-altering blessing, Junho departs to settle his debts, leaving Suho to enjoy a moment of tranquility. Meanwhile, Gunwoo happily engages with their new furry companion, playfully pondering the perfect name for the adorable dog. Suho graciously hands over the naming duty to Gunwoo, who decides to call the dog Baku. Taking a quick peek at Baku's stat screen, Suho notices the pup is at level 1. Without further ado, they dive into a joyous playtime session, cherishing the simplicity of these precious moments. As evening sets in, Junho's truck returns, prompting Suho and Gunwoo to excitedly rush downstairs to greet him. However, their joy swiftly morphs into shock and concern as they witness Junho drenched in blood, struggling to remain on his feet. In a devastating turn of events, Junho collapses to the ground, leaving Suho and Gunwoo desperate to uncover the truth behind their brother's predicament. In a different setting, a dimly lit office houses a gathering of mobsters engrossed in discussions about betting odds for the upcoming SBF Championship tournament. Suddenly, a thunderous noise reverberates from outside, alerting them to imminent trouble. Before they can react, a henchman is swiftly whisked away, vanishing into the darkness. As fear grips their hearts, they find themselves captivated by a pair of eyes burning with an unmistakable fury. Suho, who possesses eyes that could pierce through steel, in a display of sheer strength, he effortlessly lifts a bench with one hand and hurls it at a mob, causing chaos and destruction. The intensity rises as Suho boldly confronts the boss, who is unaware of what's coming his way. With a determined expression, Suho asks if he's face-to-face with the notorious Kim Jong-soo. The boss hesitantly confirms his identity and thus begins a debt-settling showdown. Warning Suho that the government won't approve of his actions, Kim tries to deter him from attacking. However, Suho pays no heed to the warning and delivers a thunderous slap that knocks out Kim's teeth. In a flurry of blows, Suho teaches Kim a painful lesson for crossing the line and harming his brother. The tables turn as the defeated mob begs for forgiveness and promises never to harass Suho's brother again. Satisfied with his victory, Suho leaves without wasting a second, leaving behind an infuriated boss vowing revenge. Meanwhile, at the guild headquarters, Captain Kong bursts in, presenting Suho's profile to his boss, Mr. Park. Kong confidently claims that Suho is the best they can find. However, when they attempt to delve deeper into Suho's background, an unexpected message pops up, denying them access. Intrigued and astonished, Park and Kong embark on a hacking mission to uncover Suho's hidden profile. As they lay their eyes on his impressive stats, disbelief washes over them. How could a mere rookie possess such incredible abilities? Kong advocates for recruiting Suho at any cost, while Park suspects there's more to Suho than meets the eye, possibly a covert government agent. Despite Kong's persistence, Park dismisses the idea, deeming it a futile pursuit, but Kong manages to secure a compromise, requesting a weekly report on Suho's activities. In another part of town, Suho rushes to the hospital to visit his brother Junho. The looming mercenary exam hovers in their minds, but Suho remains resistant to the idea of working under someone else. After all, he was once the king of the jungle. Junho offers to search for prestigious guilds on Suho's behalf, but Suho proudly declines, proclaiming his intention to establish his very own guild. The stage is set for an exciting new chapter in Suho's journey. In the meantime, we catch a glimpse of Su-young, stationed at the Awakener Bureau headquarters, where she faces the wrath of her boss due to recent incidents in her area. Feeling the pressure, she insists she's doing her best. However, her frustration peaks when she receives yet another job letter, forcing her to participate in an exam. Her boss warns her against rejecting too many applicants, a recurring issue for Su-young. At the examination center, a crowd of eager applicants assembles, ready to prove their worth. Amidst the anticipation, a guy live streaming the event finds his broadcast interrupted by none other than Suho. Just as curiosity peaks, Major Kim Young-soo introduces himself, setting the stage for the examination. The crowd eagerly awaits their assigned supervisors, hoping for a favorable match. With a touch of randomness, the lottery begins, and the participants eagerly discover their supervisors. To everyone's surprise, the streaming guy and Suho find themselves under the guidance of supervisor number 15. And guess who it is? Su-young. Excitement fills the air as strategies form and alliances take shape. Suho, ever observant, notices Dong-su's gloomy demeanor and probes him about his sudden change in mood. Dong-su reveals that they're in trouble because their assigned trainer, the blonde witch, has a reputation for being tough and failing candidates on a whim. Brushing off Dong-su's concerns, Suho playfully accuses him of making excuses, igniting a spark of anger within Dong-su. In a bid to settle matters, Dong-su challenges Suho to a fight, convinced of his own strength. However, before the fight can unfold, Su-young arrives, stumbling upon the deserted scene and wondering what she stumbled upon. Meanwhile, Suho and Dong-su find themselves confined within a cage, ready to engage in a brawl. Dong-su taunts Suho, reminding him of his past actions and boasting of his status as a rising YouTube boxer. Unfamiliar with the concept, Suho's perceived ignorance becomes a source of amusement for the spectators, who rally behind Dong-su. As anticipation builds, Dong-su eagerly predicts Suho will foot the medical bills after their showdown. Unbeknownst to Dong-su, fighting has become a deep-rooted addiction for Suho, and he too eagerly embraces the impending battle. However, just as the clash is about to commence, Su-young steps in, putting an end to the chaos. With a commanding presence, she orders everyone to disperse, threatening to fail them on the spot. The crowd hastily retreats, but Suho and Dong-su remain defiantly in the cage. Su-young confronts them, reminding them of the consequences they face for their actions. Realizing that one of them must take responsibility, she proposes that they continue their fight, with the loser facing elimination. Dong-su asked Suho not to hold a grudge against him, but Suho apologized for what was about to transpire. Dong-su attacked, but Suho countered and knocked him out. Su-young was shocked, and had thought that Suho was the source of her discomfort since she saw him come out of the portal. Suho interrupted her thoughts and asked if she also wanted to fight him, but only under the condition that if he won, she wouldn't disqualify Dong-su. So-young thought Suho was insane and entered the ring. She asked if he was an irregular, but Suho was confused by the term. She promised to explain it to him if he survived the fight. She swung a punch at Suho, but he dodged and blocked her next attacks. As they continued to fight, she told Suho that if he won, she would grant him one wish in addition to his original request. She threw a kick and suspected that Suho was keeping something hidden. Suho was impressed with her strength and praised it. She continued to attack, but Suho was able to dodge them. She then began throwing punches and kicks, which Suho countered with a punch. However, she used a shield to block it, but the shield shattered and pushed her back. Suho charged at her, enjoying the fight. She believed that Suho was an irregular, and when he was close to her, she raised her hand and surrendered. Suho was confused, but she explained that the space was too small for her to use her full abilities and suggested they continue the fight at another time. She asked him what he wanted. Suho inquired if there were many strong women like her on Earth. She replied that there were not many. He then suggested that they make babies together. She slapped him in response and left, calling him crazy. He considered leaving himself as he felt he had lost the fight and blamed Suho for getting him disqualified. Suho explained that he was not disqualified. In an office, a man was surprised to see Su-young's loss, as he had been watching the fight on camera. Dong-su was confused, and Suho explained to him that he had asked Su-young to overlook his disqualification. Dong-su then wondered why Su-young had slapped him and thought it was his fault. He cried and referred to Suho as his big brother. Suddenly, they heard that Suho was being summoned to the supervisor's office. Suho met with the man who had observed his fight with Su-young and informed him that their conversation would be recorded. The man revealed that he was shocked to see Suho fight a B-rank awakener and questioned if he was an irregular. The man then explained about bridge portals that connect Earth to 3 other planets, one of which is Aruka, where dwarves and elves live in harmony. Returnees who have returned from Aruka have acquired skills related to magic and artifact crafting. The next planet is Hades, which is inhabited by monsters and martial artists. The martial artists are allies of Earth, while the monsters are Earth's enemies. Lastly, there is Meter, a planet ruled by ogres and overrun with vicious monsters. Whenever a portal opens to Meter, an all-out war is expected to occur. The Earthlings who returned from these planets, people who learned powerful skills and whose combat abilities exceeded those of Awakeners, are called Irregulars. Suho found it complicated and was certain that the place he went to wasn't one of those planets. However, the man was thinking if Su-Yung was just a dungeon returner, that wouldn't explain how he could fight a B-ranker. Then he asked Suho what kind of planet she came back from. Suho told his story. The man thanked him and told him to head back to the waiting room. After Suho left the office, the man was surprised by his story and called in a soldier to take over as supervisor number 15. He ordered him to monitor Suho and provide a detailed report. After the exams concluded, Dong-Su excelled in the 100-meter dash, demonstrating remarkable speed. Following closely was Suho, surprising everyone with his swift performance. The major received Suho's exam results and promptly shared a video with Kim Miso from the Returner Bureau, instructing her to watch it without delay. Kim Miso's assistant informed her that the major possessed a unique ability to detect falsehoods, validating the authenticity of Suho's interview with the doctor. As the pieces fell into place, it became evident that Suho hailed from a distant fourth planet. Swift action was taken as Kim Miso ordered the immediate removal of reporters from the training grounds. Unfortunately, time was against them, as the assistant had already stumbled upon an article about Suho. Recognizing the urgency, Kim Miso swiftly issued orders to have the article taken down, but the damage had already been done. Kim Miso was contemplating that Suho was able to maintain his physical condition after passing through the portal without protective gear and was given an F rank. Due to a depletion in dimensional energy, Kim Miso pondered the possibility that Suho might truly hail from a fourth planet. Such a revelation could potentially grant Korea an edge in advancing knowledge about this enigmatic realm. Meanwhile, as the reporters found themselves hindered from reaching Suho and Dong-Su ate food. Observing Suho, Dong-Su discerned a certain aura that set him apart, predicting his rise to popularity. Within the waiting room, only a duo remained. Dong-Su inferred that they were the sole survivors of the exam. Anxiety loomed as they contemplated the upcoming trial involving dungeon raids, a challenge requiring additional members. Suho, however, reassured his companion, dispelling apprehensions. Conjecturing that Suho's proficiency in the impending raid could attract the attention of prestigious guilds, Dong-Su entertained the idea. In a surprising twist, Suho invited Dong-Su to join his clan, announcing his decision to abstain from joining an existing guild. Building upon this notion, Dong-Su conceived a compelling plan, the creation of a video chronicling their clan's inception and their subsequent exploits on raids. Dong-Su readily embraced the proposal, accompanied by heartfelt tears. Their aspirations gained momentum when a monk abruptly entered the scene, identifying himself as Myong-jin. His arrival coincided with an announcement, mandating applicants to assemble in battle attire within the briefing room within half an hour. Myong-jin elaborated on the examiner's tendency to orchestrate impromptu dungeon raids under the shroud of night. Dong-Su's incredulous reaction echoed throughout the room. The group received details about the impending dungeon raid, uncovering that it was safeguarded by the Phoenix Guild. Suho sought clarification regarding the concept of under protection, revealing a knowledge gap. Dong-Su enlightened Suho, disclosing the city's predicament, involving the sudden emergence of interdimensional portals and the government's struggle to manage the crisis. Guilds emerged as a solution, assigned to oversee and safeguard distinct sectors of the city, while harnessing the dimensional energy extracted from controlled dungeons. Suho's realization dawned. His initial intent to establish a clan stemmed from a yearning for the thrill of hunting with his old pack. Suho and Dong-Su were excited to have their own dungeon. Dong-Su mentioned the benefits of dungeon ownership, highlighting the cost savings. Suho shared their ultimate goal of forming a guild, though Dong-Su reminded them about needing to pass the mercenary exam first. The dungeon they planned to raid had only 15 days left before its collapse, featuring a labyrinth-style layout with minimal monsters. Concerns arose about getting lost, but Suho assured them of his search skill. Questions about the monk's abilities led to a flashback of past experiences. At one point, a monster ambush occurred at the temple, and evacuation advice came too late. After the briefing, the group headed towards the portal, instructed by the supervisor to stay focused. Entering the dungeon, they faced challenges including a skeleton attack. They encountered traps, leading to a lower dungeon level. Monsters closed in, and they got ready to fight. Suho's tactical kicks helped them advance, and he invited the monk to join their clan. Traps were identified, and waves of monsters engaged. After emerging from a hole, they found a trail of defeated foes. Following Suho's lead, they killed all of the monsters. Finishing the dungeon within a short span, they amazed observers. They later entered a new dungeon with bats, relying on Myungjin's skills. A boss emerged, swiftly defeated by Suho. Updates on their progress reached Kim Miso, who recalled Lee Seonggu and decided to have a meeting with Suho. Concerns arose when Myungjin didn't show up for work, but Junho assured the team they qualified for level update. Earnings potential excited Dongsu. Suho granted them a rest day, going shopping for a new truck. Post-shopping, they aided Junho's awakening. During this time, loan sharks discussed guild funding. The boss had plans involving manager Choi, an expert in erasing individuals. Contact was made to execute this plan. Kim Miso joined the Suho clan, meeting Granny. Meanwhile, Junho nervously waited for Suho when a goblin suddenly appeared on their car, prompting Suho's intervention. Suho handed over a knife to Dongsu, instructing him to eliminate the creature and follow his lead. However, Junho was grappling with doubts about awakening. Suho reassured him that weakness wouldn't lead to survival, urging him once more to take down the target. With a firm command, Suho ordered the dog to attack and sink its teeth into the goblin. The creature's arm was bitten, but Suho soon informed Junho that the dog couldn't finish the job. He emphasized that Beku's life depended on Junho's next move. Responding to the pressure, Junho plunged the knife into the goblin, freeing Beku. Suho's orders rang in his ears as he relentlessly stabbed, his hands now stained with blood. The prospect of death loomed as Suho warned Junho that failure to kill would lead to his demise. Pressing forward, Junho followed Suho's lead, engaging and defeating other goblins. As Suho distanced himself, memories of abandonment flooded Junho's mind. Fueled by a mixture of emotions, he drove the knife into the goblin's head, stabbing its body repeatedly. Maniacal laughter echoed as Junho fought off another goblin, his mind seemingly unhinged. Caught in this intense moment, Suho observed Junho's information display, amused by the designation Butcher. With the chaos subsiding, Suho invited Junho to join him in finishing the task. Together, they made their way to the Awakener's bureau, Junho's blood-soaked appearance unnerving the staff. Cleaning and quarantine were mandated before they were directed to the third floor for dimensional energy assessment. Suho explained that Junho needed a dimensional energy level exceeding 100 to qualify as an F-rank Awakener and sit for the mercenary examination. Junho's measurement surpassed this threshold at 111, prompting him to proceed to the ability manifestation room. They found themselves surrounded by the Orc squad led by a formidable Orc war chief, backed by Orc riders. Despite the dire situation, Park Suho stood defiant, declaring boldly that they were under his protection and warned the Orcs not to lay a hand on them. Choi Soo-young, bewildered by his assertion in such peril, questioned how he could make such a claim. Undeterred, the Orcs launched their attack. Through swift and coordinated efforts, Park Suho and Choi Soo-young managed to fend off most of the Orc assailants. However, the Orc war chief singled out Park Suho, hurling him aside with a mighty blow from his hammer. Despite being thrown to the ground, Park Suho quickly regained his footing, determined to retaliate. Yet, before he could strike back, the war chief struck him once more, sending him reeling. Meanwhile, in the Returner Bureau, Miss G's secretary was deep in conversation with Mr. Kim over the phone. He expressed concern about Captain Choi Soo-young's whereabouts, noting discrepancies in their smartphone's signals. Mr. Kim mentioned their presence in 2 different locations without movement for an hour. Certain they were together, she pressed for their exact location, learning they were inside a recently opened level 5 dungeon. Baffled by their unexpected presence there, she questioned Mr. Kim about the dungeon's management, discovering it was overseen by the DGB Guild. Immediately, she instructed Mr. Kim to verify the dungeon's entrance records and demanded the guild's portal manager's urgent contact. Back in the midst of the chaos, Park Suho grappled with the mounting difficulty of their situation. He wielded his axe fiercely against the Orc monsters, each strike bringing them closer to victory. On the other side, Choi Soo-young faced a barrage of arrows from Orc archers. Determined to protect her, he grabbed her arm and urged immediate flight. Noting the overwhelming Orc presence, Choi Soo-young resisted, pointing out the perilous cliffside ahead. Undeterred, Park Suho scooped her into his arms, leaping off the cliff, miraculously surviving the fall. She expressed relief at being alive, pondering the incredible odds against them. Taking refuge in a nearby cave, she sought their next move. Park Suho revealed his strategy: to level up by defeating 4 more Orc warriors. Explaining that leveling up removed his limitations rather than just powering up, he prepared to continue their battle. Meanwhile, news spread of an unfortunate incident at the level 5 dungeon. Initially, suspect Kim claimed Park Soo-ho and Choi Soo-young had entered voluntarily. However, under scrutiny from Major Kim Young-soo of the Army headquarters, his lies unraveled and he confessed to his deception. Attention now turned to the safe return of Park Soo-ho, rumored to be a returner from a newly discovered 4th planet. After a while, Kim Miso enters the room, questions the director about their current actions, emphasizing the urgency of apprehending all involved parties. The director informs her that the perpetrators have been captured, except for the head of Dragon Loon, who has fled. There's currently a bounty on him. Kim Miso remarks that this is only scratching the surface of the operation and notes that it's a level 5 dungeon. He wonders aloud if such a coordinated incident could have been orchestrated by just one individual. The director asks if they should investigate DGB, a level 5 guild, solely for this matter, and expresses skepticism about their chances of returning alive if they do. On the other side, an orc warrior attacks the tree spirit, hurling her aside. Suho retaliates and defeats the orc warrior, earning 32 achievement points. He notes that he just needs 3 more for a level up. Choi Soo-young warns him about another orc warrior approximately 100 meters ahead, but Suho hastily attacks, falling into a trap she tried to caution him about. As he struggles ensnared, Choi Soo-young desperately urges him to get up. Meanwhile, Suho reflects on how he fell into the trap, questions his current behavior, feeling his senses dull and strength ebbing from his body. Choi Soo-young deploys defense bombs to rescue him, while Park Soo-ho determines he needs one more warrior to level up. He resumes fighting, eventually achieving his level with 1075 achievement points. An option for beast transformation appears on his status screen. Meanwhile, an orc warrior threatens to attack Choi Soo-young, who mentions she lacks the strength to stand, but still attempts to fend him off. Simultaneously, Park Soo-ho activates the beast transformation, drawing power from Bu to undergo a wolf transformation. He swiftly slays the orc warrior, earning 45 achievement points in the process. As days passed without any news of Park Soo-ho and Choi Soo-young, concern grew among the public. Reporters pressed the captain of the Awaken Bureau for details about the dungeon they entered. He revealed it was the Orc Castle, a level 5 dungeon notorious for its difficulty. Typically, it required a party of at least 30 members, either all B-rank adventurers or a mix, including at least 10 A ranks. Frustrated by the prolonged coverage of their disappearance, a reporter dismissed Park Soo-ho's potential, claiming he was likely no higher than an F rank, comparing him unfavorably to Hero. He criticized the attention, suggesting South Korea might lose a future ranker. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, Park Soo-ho discovered an unexpected ability to communicate with beasts and successfully tamed one. He clarified to Choi Soo-young that it wasn't a transformation, but a fusion of sorts. Amid their predicament, he suggested gathering loot and celebrating with a meal once they escaped. However, Choi Soo-young despondently remarked that such optimism was futile in a place that might become their grave. Despite defeating the orc war chief, the exit remained sealed. Park Soo-ho pressed her about the dungeon's true boss, suspecting something stronger held them captive. Her grim revelation shook him. 3 years prior, on her first mission as a B rank, she and her team faced a similar dungeon. They were ambushed. Her friend Tun sacrificed himself to save her, and she was haunted by the memory. Park Soo-ho offered comfort as she recounted her loss, emphasizing their current need to survive. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, Park Soo-ho's friends, brother, and Choi Soo-young's colleagues worried for their safety. News reached Kim Yoshin, a revered shaman of national heritage, conducting rituals at the dungeon gate, praying for their return. An attack force of high rankers from the Seoul district assembled, driven by vengeance for their missing comrades. Back inside, Park Soo-ho and Choi Soo-young found solace in the food he procured through leveling up. After finishing their meal, Park Soo-ho and Choi Soo-young sit down. Park Soo-ho asks if she used the sword to kill the Orc Lord. She explains that she fainted on the spot after the battle, waking up later in the hospital, where Kim Miso brought her the sword. She reveals that 2 A-ranked mercenaries sacrificed themselves in the fight against the Orc Lord, barely managing to defeat the monstrous creature. She describes the Orc Lord as an unimaginable threat, capable of defeating 5 Orc war chiefs simultaneously. When Park Soo-ho asks where the Orc Lord is now, she speculates it's likely in the Orc Castle, though there's no such structure within a 1-kilometer radius. She elaborates that the Orc war chiefs are stationed in 4 smaller spires around the castle's perimeter, with the Orc Lord situated in the center. Choi Soo-young warns that once they breach the castle walls, thousands of orcs will swarm them in organized groups. Meanwhile, a tree spirit locates the Orc Castle and informs Park Soo-ho. He immediately decides to move out, prompting Choi Soo-young to ask if he has a plan. Park Soo-ho simply states they will find and kill the orcs. Acknowledging her frustration, he activates his beast transformation skill once more and carries her on his back, sprinting towards the castle. Choi Soo-young urges him to hurry, noting that orc riders are pursuing them. As the orc warriors initiate their attack, she constructs a shield to protect them as they enter the castle. She deploys her defense bombs again and directs Park Soo-ho towards the castle center. They face relentless assaults from orc warriors, and despite slipping and falling, Choi Soo-young insists Park Soo-ho continue onward while she deals with 2 warriors confronting her. On the other side, Park Soo-ho reaches the center of the castle where the orc lord is seated. He launches a fierce attack, engaging in a brutal battle until finally stabbing and killing the orc lord. Park Soo-ho levels up immediately after the orc's demise, but the castle begins to tremble ominously. Choi Soo-young once again falls to the ground, contemplating if this is their end. However, Park Soo-ho arrives just in time, taking her hand and guiding her safely as the floor shakes. She asks about the Orc Lord. Park Soo-ho confirms its death before suggesting they leave. Doubting the swift defeat, Choi Soo-young attempts to scan the door to see if it's open, seeking further confirmation of the Orc Lord's demise. On the other side, within the DGB command center, the atmosphere was tense yet charged with anticipation. Signals from Dungeon 127 had just indicated that the door was set to open in a mere 10 minutes, triggering a flurry of excitement among the staff. All eyes were glued to the countdown timer, each passing second heightening the drama. Amidst the mounting tension, a critical exchange unfolded between the team members. He turned to her with urgency, asking if she had located the door. Her affirmative response brought a brief moment of relief as she described its position. 11 o'clock, 700 meters away from the castle walls, with just over 10 minutes left before the door burst open. Suddenly, he detected the distant howl of wolves, prompting him to make a quick decision. Without hesitation, he dashed towards the source, leaving her momentarily bewildered about his intentions. She hurriedly questioned his motive, reminding him of their dwindling time. In response, he cryptically declared that from now on, they were family, hinting at a deeper connection than initially apparent. Just as they seemed cornered by the wolves, a surprising intervention came from the tree spirit, revealing a small exit nearby. Acting on the spirit's guidance, she directed him to turn right, with the pack of wolves hot on their trail. "There's an exit over there!" she exclaimed urgently, as they sprinted towards what they hoped would be their escape route. Their relief was short-lived as they reached the designated spot, only to realize it was the very door about to burst open in less than a minute. Chaos ensued as they were attacked by a warrior, causing her to stumble and spill her blood crystal bag. A moment of self-sacrifice, she urged him to leave her behind, but he refused, turning the tables on the warrior and ensuring their path to safety. Back at the command center, tension peaked as the countdown reached its final seconds. Everyone held their breath, their hopes pinned on the duo emerging victorious. With just 8 seconds remaining, a reporter's pessimistic remark threatened to dampen spirits, but another swiftly countered, emphasizing the soaring viewer ratings and the potential payoff if they succeeded. Meanwhile, on the other side, amidst the final seconds, he struggled to carry her towards the door, her condition worsening. "Just 4 seconds left," she gasped, steeling herself for a final effort. Encouraged by her resolve, he urged her to hold on, defending them against approaching threats as they made a desperate dash for the door. As the countdown ended, a collective sigh of relief echoed through the command center, though their heroes had yet to emerge. Concern turned to anxious anticipation, until finally the door swung open, revealing the duo emerging with wolves in tow. DGB staff and reporters rushed forward, relief washing over them as they identified Park Soo-ho and Choi Soo-young, safe but exhausted. As news of Park Soo-ho and Choi Soo-young's miraculous survival spreads, headlines proclaim their successful return from the level 5 dungeon after 4 days, 11 hours, and 28 minutes. In a subsequent meeting, Kim Miso presents a picture taken right after their emergence from the portal, emphasizing that both were immediately hospitalized. When asked about their condition, she explains they insisted on their postures due to the circumstances, attributing it to the gravity of the situation. The major questions why they adopted such positions, to which Kim Miso responds that it was deemed appropriate given the circumstances. She then shares various internet article headlines gathered about Park Soo-ho post-event, prompting a chuckle from him at the overtly provocative tone of the reporters. Kim Miso acknowledges this and attributes it to someone blowing the whistle on the incident. Park Soo-ho redirects the focus to resolving the situation rather than assigning blame, urging Kim Miso to continue with her briefings. She proceeds to report that news of Park Soo-ho has spread widely due to the incident, attracting attention from intelligence agencies of several countries. She notes that despite Hero being taken away, she perceives America as posing a greater threat. The discussion shifts to strategies for keeping Park Soo-ho in Korea. Dr. Kim Yuk interjects, emphasizing that as long as Park Soo-ho's family remains in Korea, he is unlikely to leave. The major challenges this sentiment questioning whether family matters more than financial incentives, and recounts Dr. Kim Yuk's own experience of living among wolves for a millennium, missing his family dearly. Dr. Kim Yuk clarifies that family is indeed his top priority and proposes offering Park Soo-ho territory where he can live peacefully with his family in exchange for his cooperation and no hostile actions against the Bureau. The Major agrees, suggesting they provide him with designated territory, while considering whether to block foreign scouts from contacting him. Meanwhile, Kim Miso displays a picture of an abandoned facility, proposing it as the territory for Suho Guild. She suggests marking the surrounding area as Park Suho's private property, noting its distance from downtown, which would ensure relative safety even if portals to new worlds appear. After the intense escape from Dungeon 127, he turned to her with a mix of concern and respect, asking if she would continue to be the lookout from their side. She affirmed her capability, stating she was the most suitable for the task. His next inquiry shifted to whether she had taken a break after filing a report on Park Soo-ho. She casually remarked that she had described him as dog-like. The scene then transitioned to a bustling stadium, where a speaker addressed a global audience of SPFC fans. He announced the long-awaited main event of the day, the final match featuring the reigning champion defending his title for the 21st time. Describing the champion as undefeated in 45 SPFC matches, the speaker hailed him as the SS rank irregular, renowned as Japan's most powerful magic swordsman with a weapon wreathed in black flame. As the crowd erupted in cheers, Hero, the champion, made a dramatic entrance with his blazing phoenix. The speaker then introduced Hero's challenger, a rising star known as Russia's Mad Bear, Michael Zorbas, an S-rank human weapon undefeated in 13 matches. Zorbas confidently took his place on the field, declaring that Hero's reign would end that day. The battle commenced swiftly with Zorbas launching a barrage of Mona Gatling's wild shots, bullets striking the iridium barrier protecting the audience. Hero countered with astonishing speed, locking on with AA Bazooka, setting the stage for a fierce exchange. Both combatants were determined to claim victory. In a sudden turn, Hero's sword aura relentlessly assaulted Zorbas, shocking everyone as the challenger who had been on a winning streak started to falter. Amidst the chaos, Zorbas coughed up blood and collapsed, prompting a timeout called by the referee and the swift intervention of medics. Despite their efforts, Zorbas showed no signs of recovery, leading the referee to declare him unable to continue. Hero emerged as the victor, successfully defending his title for the 22nd time. Later, amidst the celebration, his teammate asked about the technique he used. Hero simply explained that he had pushed his sword aura into Zorbas and let go, a testament to his skill and determination. After instructing everyone to go out for a drink later, Hero exits the room. Akiko approaches him, embraces him, and asks if he killed him. Hero replies cryptically that the defeated opponent will eventually become one of the 7 villains in the future. Concerned, Akiko advises him not to shoulder everything alone. Hero asks if anything unusual happened, and she mentions a call from the Bureau but nothing else of note. He inquires about someone from the Bureau, the captain, and she confirms the contact, relaying the captain's message to take care and suggesting they prepare to leave since everyone is likely waiting. She also informs Hero that news is spread about someone escaping from a level 5 dungeon, with expectations high that he could be the next Lee Sung-woo in Korea. Hero asks who this person is. Kiko reveals it's Park Soo-ho, the very same person the reporters claimed was trapped in the dungeon. He has gathered information about him, showing Hero a picture, but he admits he doesn't remember him. Hero asks if Park Soo-ho awakened as a swordsman, but Akiko clarifies he's known as a druid and speculates that if he's a planet returner, Earth might connect to a 4th planet. Despite Park Soo-ho being only an F rank, she finds him impressive and assumes Hero already knew about him. Kiko suggests that bringing Park Soo-ho to their side might be advantageous, considering his current popularity in Korea. She asks for Hero's opinion, adding that Park Soo-ho is currently the most popular person in the country. Hero delves into his memories, recalling a vision of impending apocalypse, where cities serving as bastions against cataclysms were gradually destroyed by dungeon breaks, flooded with monsters dominating both land and sky. Amidst this chaos, a mass exodus occurs, and heroes emerge among Asian awakeners and evacuees, seeking refuge. He remembers choosing Japan as his final sanctuary, despite being branded a traitor for doing so. He continued by expressing his vision for Japan, emphasizing the importance of maintaining and nurturing dungeons to cultivate talented individuals. He believed this effort would make Japan the ideal place for survivors to settle in the future. Despite the challenges, he held on to hope that Korean survivors would eventually see him not as a traitor, but as a hero, Lee Sung-woo. Meanwhile, at Samsung Hospital, Ms. Kim visited Choi Soo-young, asking about her condition. She confirmed it hurt, and Ms. Kim mentioned a rumor circulating about a masked man who visited every night and departed at dawn, questioning if it was Park Soo-ho. Choi Soo-young shared that she had arranged for someone to come and brought her food. After finishing her meal, she suggested going to work, but she expressed a desire to nap for an hour instead. The scene shifted to the CIA headquarters in the U.S., where news of Hero permanently subduing Michael Zorbas had reached them. The head of the CIA remarked on Zorbas's downfall, noting his surprise that such a formidable opponent was taken down so easily. An employee speculated that Hero's continued growth might lead to an emergence of an SSS rank soon. The head then noticed news about Park Soo-ho's disappearance and inquired about his whereabouts. The employee clarified that Park Soo-ho hadn't gone anywhere. Recent pictures sent by agents showed him frequenting Seoul Station. The head pondered if Park Soo-ho was talking to pigeons or something else, seemingly unaffected by his disappearance. In response, the head suggested introducing Park Soo-ho to beautiful women to lift his spirits and prevent anyone else from claiming his attention. However, plans to dispatch special agents to Korea were hindered by unfavorable airways conditions. Curiosity on board a plane was piqued when a child spotted a bird outside, prompting passengers to photograph it and speculate if it was a wyvern. Assurances that it was just a fledgling calmed any concerns about its presence near the plane. As they speculate about why a wyvern would be in the area, considering the possibility of a wyvern dungeon break, the man and his team decide to contact headquarters. Once they reach their destination, suddenly a wyvern attacks their plane. Later, news reports confirm that 2 days prior, a group of wyverns had escaped during a dungeon break over Siberia. On arrival at their territory, Park Soo-ho remarks that they've reached their destination. However, Dong-soo questions whether the two-story house in front of them might be haunted. Upon closer inspection, Park Soo-ho and his team find the house deserted and question if it can serve as their guild's new headquarters. Expressing doubts about its habitability, Choi Soo-young reports seeing a ghost on the second floor and worries the place might collapse. Kim Miso chides Choi Soo-young to be quiet, reminding her it's her first time in such a place, and assures them that remodeling will start the next day, alleviating their concerns. Park Soo-ho expresses his approval of the location and suggests they move in immediately. Kim Miso then brings up the need to establish the boundaries of their territory. Park Soo-ho uses his tree spirit power to command the setting of the boundaries, impressing Park Soon-ho and Dong-soo with the rapid growth of the trees. Soon, a massive wall encircles the territory, approximately 1 kilometer in radius with the house at its center. Park Soo-ho declares the boundary finished and designates the area as Soo-ho Guild's territory. Kim Miso humorously remarks on his kindness, prompting Park Soo-ho to joke that he only has to stay in the country for a few months. She clarifies that it's standard procedure and emphasizes that their bureau considers him family. She presents a contract for Park Soo-ho to sign, advising him to read it carefully. But Kim Miso intervenes and persuades him to sign as she exits. Choi Soo-young instructs Kim Miso to send the maintenance team the following day, playfully threatening to run away otherwise. After a while, a distressing incident unfolded at sea as pirates attacked a ship, prompting the crew to send a desperate voice note for help. They identified the attackers as the Coral Queen Emerald and urgently requested immediate assistance, citing pirates of unknown origin. The SSCU Ogu of the Haidong unit received the distress call, acknowledged the Coral Queen Emerald's location, and swiftly responded that a rescue team would arrive in 2 hours and 45 minutes. In their response, they asked if the pirates had boarded the ship and advised the crew to turn off their engines and maintain their position as much as possible. A tense moment ensued as a staff member reported pirates boarding the ship from the starboard side, urging everyone to gather in the engine room while shutting down all systems to evade capture. Amidst the chaos, sea monsters also attacked, causing widespread destruction to both the ship and the pirates' boats. Hours later, when the rescue team reached the given coordinates, they found no sign of the Coral Queen Emerald. They dispatched a search team to comb the area thoroughly in the morning, hoping to locate any survivors or debris. Meanwhile, back on land, the tranquil scene was disrupted by the fluttering of tree spirits, creating melodious music. Choi Soo-young's phone rang, and she answered to find Kim Miso on the other end, inquiring about her activities and whether she was with Park Soo-ho. She confirmed she was alone, prompting Kim Miso to chide her for staying in bed for so long. After the call ended, Choi Soo-young finally woke up and moved to the terrace. Reflecting on the growth around her, she marveled at how much had been planted in such a short time. Later, she found Kim Miso absorbed in monitoring the wolves' status on a screen, evaluating their strengths. Intrigued, she asked about his intentions, and he explained he was assigning names to their new family members, the wolves. She teased him about considering wolves as family and questioned why he hadn't awakened her or waited for the others. Curiosity piqued. She also inquired about the whereabouts of their companions, signaling a continuation of their journey. and the challenges they face together. As they discuss the early morning departures of others, likely venturing through dungeons, Park Soo-ho acknowledges their diligence on such a hot day. He suggests they take a walk to cool down, transforming into his beast form and inviting Choi Soo-young to join him. They start running towards the trees, accompanied closely by a pack of wolves. Meanwhile, outside the boundaries of Suho clan's territory, a reporters team camps, frustrated by the lack of news to report and the sweltering weather. They discuss HQ's instructions to bring back news and their confinement for 2 months. Speculating about anyone crossing the boundary, they caution each other about CCTV surveillance and potential military response to any suspicious activity. As they converse, Suho clan's car passes by, catching Park Junho's attention. He remarks on the reporter's dedication despite the heat. Inside the car, Dong-soo checks his YouTube channel and notices a surge in overseas donations from the US, Japan, Russia, and England, totaling over 4 billion won. Most of these large donations seem to come from influential foreign scouts. Dong-soo ponders whether to inform Park Soo-ho about this development. Back in the woods, Dong-soo comments that Park Soo-ho never offers them a ride because he's too competitive. Junho agrees, noting that Park Soo-ho is too fast. They decide to step on the gas pedal and race in the car's sport mode towards the house. During their walk, Choi Soo-young recalls asking Park Soo-ho about the planet he was on. He responds it was an animal kingdom where only animals existed, confirming that it was filled with hostile creatures with dimensional energies exceeding 700. He describes it as a place of constant territorial fights and survival. Becoming a leader required at least rank status. He added that even after becoming king, he had faced challenges for centuries, implying a long history of struggles and conflicts. She pondered the implications of a bridge portal connecting their planet, realizing that UNR's restriction on passage could potentially turn the area into a battleground where they would confront hostile beings from another world. Meanwhile, on the other side, Kim Mi-so asked Captain Kong about his concerns regarding their reception on his planet, questioned why Captain Kong worried, given his former status as king there. Regaining her composure, she remarked on the complexities they faced as the race to control the situation began. Reflecting on his changed circumstances, he admitted that his current self was not as formidable as before, speculating that potential adversaries might spare him if they perceived his weakened state. She found his reasoning compelling and sprinted towards the northeastern field at full speed, aiming to distance themselves from the city center. As they moved, Dong-soo questioned their direction, prompting Park Junho to suggest following them. She agreed, noting the space distortions beginning as the portal formation neared completion. Alerting her team, she instructed them to relay the portal's location to the waiting units. He remarked on the portal's familiarity, asserting it was not the same as the planet he once ruled. It was a conventional portal door. She challenged his certainty without equipment, suggesting his experience with teleportation portals might alter his perception. Recalling the dimensional energies involved, she compared it to previous encounters, noting her current intuition suggested reduced danger compared to previous encounters. On the other side, reporters also took notice, commenting on the portal's appearance and speculating on the implications of a dimensional crack, drawing attention to the unfolding events and the potential consequences. As they observe the arrival of ammo cars and suspect it's the Bureau's detective team, they note the dispatch of the helicopter unit as well. One of them speculates that a portal has opened, questioning if it leads to a new planet. Choi Soo-young wonders if it's a dungeon portal, but Park Soo-ho remains silent. Upon arrival at the scene, Dong-soo exclaims that it's indeed a portal. The detective team identifies themselves as Detective Team 11 and begins installing a measuring device. Park Soo-ho queries their purpose, and they explain it's to calculate the dungeon's level and the time until the dungeon break. The team leader informs them it's a level 4 dungeon, relatively low level. Choi Soo-young contacts the captain again to confirm it's a level 4 dungeon, but Park Soo-ho disagrees, implying it's not where he's from. She suggests they enter and investigate firsthand. She recommends a detection team member with video memory skills accompany them to determine if this dungeon is related to Park Soo-ho. Park Soo-ho becomes agitated, questioning if she understands the amount of money invested. She responds they're uncertain, and Park Soo-ho's demonstrated skills don't align with a level 4 dungeon. He insists that if the appearance of the first portal indicates a dungeon returner, they're dealing with someone significant. He asks if she's aware of the trust and investment placed in them based on this possibility, emphasizing Park Soo-ho's irregular status. He advises her to use the inspection as an excuse to buy time and find a solution, stressing the risk to their investment and potential consequences if they fail to recover it. Choi Soo-young requests the recall of the military unit since the dungeon will break in 50 days. The team leader expresses concern about clearing a level 4 dungeon multiple times a day and questions the feasibility with their current team members. Park Soo-ho disagreed, asserting that using the dungeon energy measuring device was not difficult. He admired its functionality and casually inquired about its price. She clarified that such devices were highly sought after by guilds, with the latest models costing around 3 billion won. She mentioned receiving a notice offering to permanently rent the equipment to him as a gift for signing a contract, which puzzled him. He questioned the motives behind such gifts, stating confidently that even if he wasn't a returner from a new planet, the Korean Bureau would never mistreat him. Park Soo-ho emphasized that despite numerous contacts from foreign countries, he hadn't received any messages from them. He expressed gratitude towards the Korean Bureau, highlighting their recognition of him as a national treasure and family. Meanwhile, Dong-soo approached, expressing a desire for a brief conversation. He noted the intensifying competition abroad and the substantial donations he had received due to limited internet access. Park Soo-ho was asked about the total amount, estimating it to exceed 5 billion won. Han-dong cautioned against being enslaved by money, to which Park Soo-ho assured him he would remember. Dong-soo then presented offers they wanted Park Soo-ho to consider, insisting he at least review them. Park Soo-ho agreed to look at them, but stated he would ignore them in the end. He decided to keep a small portion of the donations for himself and contribute the rest to the guild's treasury. Reflecting on his financial gains, he remarked that money seemed to flow in and out of his pockets effortlessly, having earned 3.6 billion won. Afterward, as they prepared to move, a guard approached, requesting they wait. He informed them that a combat team from the Bureau would be joining them in the dungeon. Park Soo-ho pointed out the contractual limit of mobilizing only 2 people for inspection, and that they wouldn't be allowed to participate in the hunt, despite the additional support. She agrees and urges them to proceed into the level 4 dungeon, emphasizing to the team leader the importance of thorough documentation. He acknowledges her instructions and suggests leveling up a bit before entering. As they enter the portal, someone in the group asks Park Soo-ho for his thoughts. He admits he's unsure but senses something familiar. The team leader raises concerns about their safety and advises caution. Park Soo-ho reassures them that he's leading and they should follow. They all agree, and Choi Soo-young orders a halt when they spot a mob of monsters 70 meters ahead, specifically 3 lizardmen. Park Soo-ho directs everyone to stay back and engages in combat with the monsters, while the team leader diligently records the action. After defeating them, Park Soo-ho earns 84 achievement points. He reminds everyone to collect the loot, and they rush to gather items from the fallen monsters. Park Soo-ho instructs them to remain vigilant, as he plans to lure more monsters with Bu into the forest. When monsters approach, Park Jun-ho charges into battle, initially struggling until Dong-soo joins and assists in defeating them. As a result, Dong-soo reaches level 9, while Park Jun-ho advances to level 11. The team leader again questions if this is truly a level 4 dungeon, expressing concern over their seemingly reckless actions. Choi Soo-young stresses the importance of focusing on their mission and documenting their findings. Meanwhile, Kim Miso arrives outside the boundaries where reporters surround her car, questioning her about the dungeon's level. One of them mentions seeing Captain Lee In-sung's combat team entering, confirming it's a level 4 dungeon. Without saying a word, Kim Miso leaves the scene, prompting the reporter to instruct his team to pack up. Her driver hesitated, concerned about the classified nature of the information being discussed. She urged him to weigh the importance of the higher-ups' financial maneuvers against Park Soo-ho's safety and well-being. Without hesitation, he affirmed that Park Soo-ho's welfare was paramount. She agreed, explaining that revealing Park Soo-ho as a dungeon returner could deter unwanted attention, and they were actively working on a solution. Meanwhile, on the other side, Combat Team 13 stood ready at the portal. Captain Lee Min-sung addressed his team, preparing them for the upcoming confrontation with monsters. However, a guard interrupted, informing them they were instructed to stand by. Kim Miso arrived on the scene, greeted the captain, and delivered the news that they couldn't proceed without Park Soo-ho's consent to cooperate with the combat team. Frustrated by the delay and the sudden change in plans, Captain Lee questioned the logic of entering with only a scouting party when their contract included provisions for exploration with a full combat team. Kim Miso assured him she was there to resolve the issue, and hinted at a matter concerning the captain himself, suggesting there were personal implications tied to their current situation. On the other side of the world, Dr. Kim Jung-guk watched a news report detailing Park Soo-ho's entry into a level 4 dungeon. This triggered memories of Park Soo-ho's claims about discovering fruit trees and a bountiful seafood coast, locations unsuitable for permanent habitation. Dr. Kim reflected on the implications of these discoveries, particularly on how they challenged current theories about dungeon origins. He pondered the possibility that a planet could fracture and transform into a dungeon, a concept stimulated by Park Soo-ho's quest for assistance in locating his brother. Dr. Kim Yuk, another scientist, agreed to aid Park Soo-ho under the condition that Park Soo-ho divulge details about his 500-year reign as the King of Wolves, before encountering the gorilla tribe. This period marked Park Suho's true dominance over the forest. Back in the midst of battle with monsters, Park Suho questioned the creatures' behaviors and instructed his companions to gather the loot from their fallen foes as they continued their journey. She observed the peculiar beauty of their surroundings. He admits that although he's never been here before, certain things feel inexplicably familiar to him. Notably, he recognizes the Hangul writings around them, Korean script. Their exploration leads them to a cave adorned with densely packed Hangul writings. Inside, they discover a note that reads, "Park Suho is here." Choi Soo-young expresses concern, asking if this place is his homeland and checking on his well-being. Inside the cave, he notices unfinished knives made from sharpened rocks, but suddenly bolts from the cave, leaving his companions calling out after him. He reaches the mountain summit with Choi Soo-young closely following. She asks if this place is where he used to live, and he confirms that it seems like it, though something feels amiss. He gestures towards various locations, describing how there used to be a towering, snow-covered mountain, a grove of fruit trees, and the sea in different directions. Choi Soo-young is particularly intrigued by the mention of the sea in a level 4 dungeon. Curious, she asks if he is responsible for the writings on the walls, and he affirms that he wrote them. He explains that these writings were his attempt to preserve knowledge of civilized society when he arrived in this place. He started writing on the cave walls while hiding from other animals, and even after relocating, he would return periodically to continue the record so he wouldn't forget how to write. She questions if the lizardmen were always present in this area, and he clarifies that they were not. She then asks about the fate of his animal companions. He informs her that this territory belonged to the leopards who were not weak enough to be displaced by lizardmen. She points out the fog in the distance, explaining that it marks the dungeon's boundary, signifying that he cannot venture beyond it. Meanwhile, everyone else is climbing upwards, with lizardmen relentlessly pursuing them. Handong urgently advises sticking close to the two leaders as their survival depends on it, urging them to ascend quickly. Suddenly, an overwhelming influx of lizardmen appears, including the imposing figure of the Lizard King. He swiftly made a critical decision, ordering her to stay with the others while he descended from the mountain. His arms transformed into wings, enabling him to soar towards the Lizard King with decisive speed. Engaging in a fierce battle, he utilized his beast transformation against the formidable opponent. Meanwhile, on the other side, the remaining team members engaged in intense combat against approaching lizardmen. The team leader raised concerns about the consumption of dimensional energy by long-range weapons compared to close-range ones. He explained that launch volume was also limited by individual levels, emphasizing the necessity of adapting to the current situation despite potential cost inefficiencies. She issued firm commands to maintain focus as they faced the determined lizardmen, collectively striving to eliminate the encroaching threat. Amidst the chaos, he reached the summit of the mountain and unleashed a powerful wind attribute skill, creating a turbulent disturbance that engulfed everything around him. Urgently, she commanded everyone to take cover, and they tumbled to the ground until the turbulence subsided, assessing their injuries. Undeterred, he urged them to move quickly, noting that the door was now open. With determination, they made a swift dash towards the door, aiming to escape the escalating danger. Meanwhile, on the other side, the combat team and Kim Miso anxiously awaited their return. Finally emerging, Kim Miso identified them and exclaimed their arrival. Captain Lee observed his appearance, noting a sense of weakness in him. Expressing a desire to speak with him, everyone was taken aback as he unexpectedly transformed into a pigeon and flew away, leaving them bewildered. Kim Miso questioned this sudden transformation, recalling her initial description of him as a dog, further adding to the mystery surrounding his abilities and transformations. She inquires if something unusual has transpired, prompting him to insist that if she's there to cooperate, they should simply let her be. She raises concerns about the recordings and reveals that he will return to headquarters with her. Kim Miso then mentions that she too is on a mission, and her involvement with the observation mission has officially concluded. She informs them that she's been dispatched for a critical mission supporting the border near Northern Dew, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation. After a while, Park Suho informs them that 4 members of the portal management team will remain on site as the minimum required staff to oversee the equipment. Park Juno assures him that they will take good care of the team members as their guests, and he agrees, mentioning plans to try to hire more personnel to manage things more efficiently. Meanwhile, Kim Miso turns to Captain Lee and suggests they return to discuss wages. Captain Lee questions the need to return, reminding her that she initially said she would cooperate with him. She explains that the director is waiting for them, prompting their departure. Back at headquarters, the director contacts Kim Miso and inquires about her location. She informs him that everyone is withdrawing, except for the management team. She suggests they can address the matter of wages later and proposes discussing it in person when they meet up. During a briefing, Park Suho mentions seeing densely written Korean text and discovering his diary written on the cave walls. He also reports suddenly jumping into the sky and throwing the Lizard King around, though he couldn't record it inside the dungeon, but managed to do so once outside. He further explains their belief that he can fuse with animals he has tamed, mentioning that his skill level depends on the fused animal, but could reach at least SSS rank. Captain Lee expresses concern about the treatment of the Lizard King and inquires about its strength in a level 4 dungeon, suggesting it's around B rank. Park Suho corrects him, stating it's an A rank and that he defeated it easily. He then suggests that he might be above S rank himself. Kim Miso notes that his current dimensional energy is E rank, but his normal combat skills are S plus rank. After fusion, she adds, his skill level could potentially surpass SSS rank depending on the animal. He also mentioned that unlike other Awakeners, he had no skill level limit when leveling up. The captain remarked that if all those who disappeared during the cataclysm had returned like him, their country would have become a superpower by now. Referring to the results of the first round of tests confirming he was a level 4 dungeon Ruri, she cautioned they couldn't be certain yet. He speculated that he might not want to share the secret of his strength, but she disagreed, believing he wasn't like that. The captain questioned his disruptive behavior with the scouts, despite signing a contract, suggesting he might be withholding the secret of his strength. She left the room, reflecting on the significance of this secret. He proposed that if they filled his squad 37 with 80 members ranked C or above, he would take responsibility for uncovering his secret. He assured them that the issue with the minister's investment would be resolved smoothly. The captain agreed, noting the favorable terms of 3 times the regular salary and a 780 bonus. 10 minutes before departure, the team assembled with the CDC 503 Special Forces Platoon 2, Ammo Detection Team 7, and Team 11 reporting readiness after personnel and equipment checks. Special Forces and the detection team confirmed no issues. They prepared to begin the operation. In the car, soldiers discussed the dangerous reputation of the border due to nearby dungeon bursts, expressing concern about sending the detection team to the front lines. She agreed, suggesting they prepare wills to send to their families before communication potentially became impossible. Meanwhile, he lay down, reminiscing about his childhood and recalling missed calls from her. He pondered Suho's increased sleep and checked donations, remarking that since revealing he was only a level 4 dungeon Ruri, donations should have ceased. Park Junho enters the room and asks Park Suho if Monk Myungjin called, expressing concern because he can't contact him and wonders if something happened. He humorously asks if Myungjin has reached divine enlightenment, suggesting he might be having fun with children or sleeping too much. Park Suho replies that he plans to wake Myungjin up. Later, Park Suho reflects on his return through the portal, disappointed that instead of finding his friends, he encountered a land filled with unfamiliar red lizards. He thinks about his Red Wolf family from Jackie's tribe and wonders if they also teleported away due to the lizard threat, believing that destiny will reunite them someday. Meanwhile, Kim Miso calls Park Suho, but he doesn't pick up initially. When they eventually meet, Park Juno mentions her liking for lobster and speculates she was dispatched to the country. They discuss the need to recruit more guild members, especially those capable of operating the portal measuring device, as they anticipate more portals opening in their territory. The scene shifts to Choi Soo-young in Nurk's Red Zone, where a soldier instructs everyone to turn off private communication devices. She checks her phone and attempts to call Park Suho, but her calls go unanswered. Park Juno informs her that Park Suho isn't answering. Kim Miso and Captain Lee arrive where Park Suho is sitting in the garden. She mentions they've just arrived and asks to meet with him immediately. Park Suho asks if it's about inspection, expressing disappointment that it's not related to a new planet. He questions why she's so focused on inspection, to which she explains their goal of uncovering the secret behind his abilities in the dungeon. He jokingly suggests she simply needs to train diligently for 1,000 years and wonders why she doesn't believe him. Captain Lee intervened, urging them to cease their bickering as they were all from the same country and should support each other during this national crisis. He elaborated on the escalating frequency of Level 6 dungeon appearances, the shrinking time until dungeon breaks, and the surge in infections from the Necroville virus in the fields. When asked about infected people, he explained that the Necroville virus was of unknown origin, possibly alien, and spread rapidly, complicating efforts with their current resources. He displayed a map highlighting the Necroville red zones, stressing the challenges in transportation and preventing dungeon breaks due to these zones' proliferation. Captain Lee emphasized the urgent need for individuals with strong abilities like Park Suho. To gain permission for free dungeon inspection and hunting, he proposed 2 concessions. First, they would elevate his guild level to level 5, allowing access to dungeons up to level 5. Second, she offered territory in the former Zhongyu region in northern Guangzhou and Namyangju, closer to Suho's territory. Discussing the potential for rebuilding cities, developing dungeon commercial districts, and clearing farmland, he noted the astronomical profits possible if Suho's guild successfully managed the territory. She suggested using mobile modular houses in the dungeon commercial district for safety during portal breaks, emphasizing the economic opportunities. Considering the offer, he inquired about the situation in North Korea during the Great Disaster, including coups d'etat and a collapsed command system. She outlined the challenges faced by survivors moving between places due to the lack of systematic dungeon management in North Korea. Concerned about potential refugee flows to the south, he deliberated whether he was being deceived or the deceiver, but ultimately decided to proceed and sign the contract, recognizing the potential benefits for both sides in this mutually beneficial arrangement. Kim Miso agrees with Park Suho, affirming that his decision was the right one. Park Suho then asks if the condition requiring him to stay in the country for 100 days has been rescinded, to which she confirms. He proceeds to make 2 personal requests. First, to meet the scientist who invented the dimensional energy measuring device, and second, to track the location of his guild's monk, Myung-jin, whose phone suddenly isn't answering. She assures him that both requests are easily achievable. The scene shifts to Sheila Guild, where mercenary recruitments are underway. Several candidates have come for interviews. Jang Jae-shik considers Sheila Guild as the Dream Guild, established by Korea's largest conglomerate, Sheila Corporation. The recruitment process, held twice a year, is highly competitive and eliminates most mercenaries during the initial application stage. Despite being rejected by other guilds, Jang Jae-shik hopes to gain opportunities here. After 3 years of working for small clans and as a freelance mercenary, Jang Jae-shik sees this as a critical moment. He knows that out of the 50 candidates who passed the preliminary stage, only 10 will be selected after the interview. Captain Kang Mil comments that this recruitment has been disappointing, as all the candidates seem rather ordinary. Captain Kang Minuk reviews Jang Jae-shik's profile and notes that he is a swordsman with 3 years of experience, still ranked as an F. He speculates that if Jang Jae-shik's awakened skill is swordsmanship, it might be worth training him further. Captain Kang Minuk decides to select him and instructs the guards to bring in the next group. Meanwhile, Captain Lee announces the next candidate, number 46 out of 50. Captain Kang Mil inquires about the whereabouts of number 50, Mr. Jang Jae-shik. Number 49 explained that he suddenly left for some reason, recalling the invitation from Park Suho to join his guild. He swiftly departed, discarding his interview slip, convinced that an offer from someone who had saved his life and was the hottest topic in Korea needed no further consideration. Meanwhile, Captain Kim didn't disclose the uncertainty of when they would be ambushed. Sergeant Han wanted him to recount a previous encounter where they were surrounded by 2,000 of them last month. The roads were growing increasingly perilous, prompting thoughts that perhaps they should have stuck to their usual route. During their journey, the Necroville devoured a giant bear, prompting discussion among soldiers. One suggested using anti-tank rockets to turn them to dust, but another cautioned that gunfire might provoke the Necroville. Pressing forward toward the aerial military operations area, they fired anti-tank rockets to clear the road. Although successful in eliminating the creatures and clearing the path, the gunfire alerted more Necroville, prompting them to charge toward the soldiers. On the other side, a monk and Monk Myungjin were heading to Forest Tree Camping. Monk mentioned reaching the camping SES management office shortly. Reflecting on their decision to come here despite the creature's presence, Monk Myungjin expressed a desire to cook a delicious meal with freshly harvested vegetables for the children. They decided to leave quickly and return with the food, knowing the children must be hungry. Approaching the camping SES management office, they noticed the open door on the first floor and quickly planned their next move. Monk instructed the children to run as soon as the car stopped and to not look back, emphasizing their safety. They hurriedly picked up the children, heading back home with the Necroville Jashik in pursuit. Monk commanded the children to keep running and defend themselves during the battle, realizing the overwhelming numbers and the 6-minute cooldown remaining before Dragon Rush could be used again. As he stands atop the house, surveying the chaos around him, he notices the tree spirit spring into action, swiftly dispatching the NEC Rals with precise, powerful strikes. The bystanders look on in awe as he calmly assesses the situation. With a commanding tone, he gestures for everyone to stay back, not wanting to involve them in the escalating conflict. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, soldiers urgently request a connection to the Dabang Aerial Military Operations Area 7. They relay a distress call to Mike Command, reporting that they are under relentless pursuit by NEC Robbles. The creatures relentlessly attack their armored tank, threatening to breach their defenses. In a nearby building, she peers out from a window, strategizing with her team. With a decisive nod, she instructs them to open the door swiftly. They comply, asking how they should navigate past the formidable obstacle ahead. She calmly explains their plan. Once outside, they must make their way towards Team 7's designated vehicle. Any obstruction in their path is to be swiftly neutralized. Stepping out into the fray, she engages the enemy alongside her team, coordinating their efforts flawlessly. She directs the driver to join her in combat, abandoning the vehicle as they push forward. In the midst of the chaos, a rescue team arrives on scene. The captain swiftly assesses the situation, ordering a check on survivors in Car 2. Grim news follows. The driver and front passenger are confirmed deceased. Under siege, they struggle to fend off the relentless attackers. The tide turns as they notice an unfamiliar aircraft descending from above. Their astonishment grows as they identify it as the SOF 778, coming to their aid just in time. Meanwhile, amidst the ongoing battle, he continues to eliminate Necrovilles with calculated precision. The children nearby express their jubilation at the sight of the creatures falling before him. However, a sudden attack catches him off guard as a Necroville bites into Monk's ankle. Undeterred, Monk laughs off the attack, suggesting they retreat homeward. Elsewhere in Osaka, Japan, a portal rips through reality, splitting the road as a monstrous entity emerges. A terrified woman struggles to rescue her baby from the impending danger, narrowly evading disaster. Hiro arrives swiftly and saves a baby in distress, prompting his team to launch an assault on the monster. They engage in a fierce battle, leaving the crowd exhilarated and grateful. Hiro's heroism once again earns him praise as he departs after vanquishing the monster, hailed by relieved onlookers. Shortly afterward, news reports emerge from Umeda, Osaka City, detailing a monster incursion through a teleportation portal, causing havoc in the area. The situation could have been far worse if not for Team Hiro, who had just returned from clearing a level 5 dungeon. Alongside the commissioner of the Supernatural Bureau, Hiro's team is credited with preventing further casualties. In the car, the commissioner commends Hiro for a job well done. As they discuss, she shows him a video about him and asks if he remembers the child in the footage. Hiro learns that the child is a dungeon Ruri, but the Bureau holds no disappointment despite the revelation. Reflecting on his earlier concerns, Hiro sees a picture of himself with the child and finds it strange that someone so young is connected to the list of the eighth evils. He contemplates his own notorious reputation as Korea's most villainous figure and wonders about the child's background, speculating that he may have lost his father and now resides in an orphanage. Further perplexed by the presence of other notable individuals like Jang Ishik and Monk Myungjin within Suho Guild, Hiro ponders why such diverse characters have gathered in one place. As he ponders these thoughts, she encourages him to watch a video compilation she compiled, assuring him of its authenticity. She seeks his opinion, noting that someone who returned from an F-rank dungeon seems remarkably powerful. Agreeing with her assessment, he acknowledges that the combat prowess displayed doesn't resemble that of a typical dungeon Ruri. She voices her belief in the rumors about him being irregular, hinting that there might be truth to it. Pondering the existence of an irregular not documented in official records, he wonders if this individual, like himself, is a regressor, someone who has returned to the past with knowledge from the future. Concern sets in as he considers the possibility that this irregular's goal may be to gather notorious villains, potentially disrupting the meticulously crafted plans he's honed over 500 years of regressions. Realizing the urgency, he decides he must travel to Korea soon to confront this druid. Meanwhile, after some time, Park Suho arrives at his territory with the children, eagerly taking in their new surroundings. She reaches out to her team to receive an update on the Suho clan's progress. They report that 37 squads, each comprising 20 members, totaling 4 teams, have been inside for 28 hours. Initially, the Suho clan's 5-member party cleared the dungeon in 2 hours and 30 minutes. Impressively, their 8th clearance took only 11 minutes. Pondering the implications, she calculates that investing 10 hours a day in a level 4 dungeon could potentially allow them to clear it in just 4 days. Reflecting on their swift agreement, she considers that they may have acquiesced too easily and should have imposed special conditions, such as limiting the number of raids. Elsewhere, he presents a sword to Jang Jaishik, who expresses immense joy upon receiving the gift, dubbed the Hellblade, as it surpasses his current dull sword. He explains that it's a long sword typically reserved for those above B rank, speculating that Jaishik won't fully harness its power until he reaches at least B rank. Jaishik responds with determination, vowing to achieve B rank as quickly as possible. In another interaction, Monk approaches and confides in him, explaining that his staff's damage capability is insufficient. He expresses a desire for a wing spear, ideal for delivering critical damage, but admits his current level prevents him from acquiring one. It seems like the situation is escalating with the emergence of a level S dungeon, which surprises everyone involved. Monk confirms his purchase of an item costing 120 million won, ensuring it automatically upgrades to A rank. He then hands it over to Monk, who vows to repay this debt through countless curses and massacres. Ishik then turns to Dong and asks if he also needs such an item, but Dongu reveals he already bought one for himself, which he deems sufficient. Meanwhile, Kiko informs Hiro that they cannot leave immediately due to the suspension of air routes caused by the outbreak of wyvern nests. Perplexed, Hiro asks for clarification, prompting Kiko to show him an article reporting on the widespread wyvern outbreak, affecting both airlines and sea routes. Hiro is puzzled by why such an event is happening now. Amidst this, Hiro receives an urgent call from a minister who explains the urgency of the situation. A level S dungeon has unexpectedly emerged in Hako. Hiro is stunned by this revelation, as a level 7 dungeon was not predicted for another 5 months. He realizes that something significant has changed, given his earlier predictions about the Wyvern dungeon and the subsequent global crisis if a level 7 dungeon were to appear. Hiro reflects on the chaos unfolding and the potential influence of Park Suho and those around him, speculating on the existence of more regression stones and whether Park Suho may have regressed even further into the future than him. He considers the possibility that Park Suho might possess knowledge about his own existence and future. Concerned about differing goals and potential threats to humanity, Hiro concludes that he must meet Park Suho as soon as possible to ascertain their alignment and take action if necessary. He instructs her to head to Hoko immediately, and she agrees, committing to continue gathering information about Park Suho. After a while, Park Suho and his team enter a portal. He instructs Monk to use the area taunt, ringing it loudly as Dong-Su encourages him to increase its force. As they approach, he keenly observes their distance. First 40 meters, then 30 meters, closing in. He alerts the group that 125 lizardmen are approaching from the front. They prepare to attack, and he deploys the Tree Spirit skill, swiftly eliminating all but one, which Dong-Su finishes off, earning him 13 points. Observing more enemies approaching from the other side, he quickly alerts the team to their numbers. They all engage, giving their best to eliminate as many as possible. He skillfully wields his blade, noting its remarkable damage and reflecting on his capabilities, feeling on a different level compared to larger guilds, particularly admiring Suho's guild for their unique approach. As the Lizard King emerges, they attack and manage to dismember it. He questions their strategy for killing the Lizardman King in such a critical moment. Later, realizing they have to leave the valuable blood crystals behind, he apologizes, admitting he got carried away. As they notice the door about to burst in 5 minutes, he suggests they make their way out, expressing regret about abandoning what could have been worth about 400 million won. However, while running toward the exit, he decides to let it go, confident they can return later. During their escape, Monk feels pain in his ankle. Meanwhile, a soldier from Base Camp Team 2 requests a situation report. Another soldier responds, stating they've completed 30% of the investigation in Sector 3 with nothing significant to report. The first soldier speculates that if they had found something, there might be a record of it. Noting they've finished analyzing the cave graffiti, he instructs them to move on to the next sector. The soldier updates them on Team 1's position, just 70 meters away with 6 approaching lizard spearmen at 4 o'clock. Upon the captain's orders, 2 team members are dispatched to handle the situation swiftly, ensuring they collect the valuable blood crystals. Contacting base camp, he queries about the whereabouts of the Lizard King. After a brief search, he relays that Scouting Party 3 is advancing to Sector 12, questioning their progress in locating the rare item. Additionally, he reports 8 lizard warriors advancing towards their 3 o'clock position, approximately 70 meters ahead of base camp. He advises caution and readiness to eliminate the threat. Suddenly, the captain notices that the base camp has been breached, sparking a battle. He urgently orders his team to return to base camp immediately. Meanwhile, reports from Apocalypse D1 and D2 indicate that the NEC Robbles are retreating, necessitating helicopters for casualty evacuation and supporting the detection team. They also note the presence of NEC Robbles at 11 o'clock. On another front, they receive an S while en route to the field, arriving just in time. Discussion ensues about meeting with the CDC. Plans include escorting the detection team until they rendezvous with the 2nd Armored Brigade, then following CDC instructions from there. Suddenly, a helicopter is spotted, but a colossal monster attacks and destroys it. A soldier shows a video to Kim Miso, explaining it was the end of footage from Special Force Team 77A to the CDC, emphasizing its importance for Bureau awareness. Miso inquires if there have been any updates since then. The soldier replies that a report will arrive once the situation stabilizes. Kim Miso questions the deviation from the plan, seeking clarification on their presence there. Assured that any impropriety will be addressed by the disciplinary team upon confirmation, she waits for further developments. Frustrated, she repeatedly tries to call Choi Suong, but finds her number unavailable. She expresses her exasperation aloud, wondering why she can never have a peaceful day. Just as she starts to settle, the calm is shattered by the sudden attack of the Lizard King on the base camp. Everything had been meticulously arranged to confront such a threat. As the Lizard King launches his assault, the person in charge swiftly presses a button, triggering a sequence of destruction that ultimately defeats the monstrous invader. By the time the captain arrives, they notice a peculiar door formation located 120 meters to their 9 o'clock. A countdown for the door's burst is set at 10 minutes and 30 seconds. In the Central Defense Command Center, Kim Miso receives updates. Scouting Team 1 has returned, but the news is grim. 4 members lost their lives, and 2 others are severely injured and recovering. Kim Miso expresses shock at the casualties, questioning how a level 4 dungeon could result in such losses. The center explains the necessity of a simultaneous scouting mission, which forced the team to split, leading to operational complications. They plan to re-enter the dungeon in 2 hours after the injured recover. Kim suggests considering substituting team members and inquires about the status of other teams. The center reports that other teams are still raiding, but have not found any clues related to the item they seek, due to focusing on the rescue mission post-base camp attack. They confirm the time anomaly. Team 1 experienced 48 hours in the dungeon, while only 24 passed outside. Kim realizes the implications. If time flows twice as fast, then someone spending 10 years in the dungeon experienced 20 years. She ponders the mystery of the 1,000 years that have passed and acknowledges Suho Guild's exceptional clearing speed. She proposes expanding the scouting party and accelerating their efforts. Further updates reveal that Team Suho ceased raiding after approximately 7 hours, achieving an impressive 50 clears, but opting out of further dungeon raids in their territory. Kim questions their decision, but the center explains that it all feels surreal to them, which keeps their spirits high and their energy undiminished. He vents his frustration, explaining how he's labored for 14 years without ever entering a level 3 dungeon, let alone a level 4. Today alone, he's raided a level 4 dungeon 50 times, defeating lizard warriors who are as formidable as bosses in lower-level dungeons. He recounts crawling at the bottom of the ranks for 3 years just to barely achieve E rank. Yet, upon joining the Suho Guild, he swiftly ascended to D rank. Reflecting on what might have been if he joined the Shilla Guild, he speculates he'd be undergoing rookie training. "This isn't a dream," he declares as they reach their destination. Urging everyone to wake up, he motivates them to finish the task quickly so they can enjoy a meal of lobster. He lies down to check his status window, musing that the higher his level climbs, the more he can sense changes in his abilities. In the conversation, she mentions that Doctor from England created the dimensional energy measuring device. She's requested permission to visit and will update him upon receiving a reply. Immediately, he decides he should fly to England once permission is granted. Puzzled by his current C-rank status despite his high-dimensional energy, he acknowledges the progress and prepares to act swiftly upon receiving clearance. He questions if he's the only one who can see others' information through the status window and ponders who developed this system. She explains that it's akin to a legendary tale among engineers, referred to as the God Stone, a pivotal item postulated to have revolutionized the dimensional energy industry after a cataclysmic event known as the Great Disaster. Continuing, she elaborates that a massive pillar of rock with red inscriptions emerged in Northern Europe after the disaster. It became revered by Northern European awakeners, believed to convey divine revelations. After the revelation of God's deciphered message, pieces of the pillar were dispersed worldwide by various ministries. Consequently, all awakened individuals across the globe could now access their stats through a status window. This fragment of the rock pillar came to be known as the Bureau's Dimensional Computer CPU, also referred to as the Godstone. Utilizing this Godstone, the Bureau's dimensional computer was created, enabling them to manage the awakened status windows. Curious about the content deciphered, he asks what information it contained. She explains that it included foundational knowledge such as the Awakener's upgrade system and methods for utilizing dimensional energy. This discovery was groundbreaking at the time. Later, as they emerge from their discussion, he casually suggests going to eat lobsters. However, his demeanor shifts when he mentions the possibility of being targeted for assassination. He inquires about the substantial sum involved and learns it totals $1.1 billion from the US, $400 million from Russia, $300 million from England, and $1.6 billion from Japan. Perplexed by the intense focus on him despite being a dungeon ruler, he acknowledges the value placed on his unique ability to control plants. He points out the global land shortage and food crisis, hinting at his potential role in addressing these issues. Concerned about the assassination threat, he seeks advice on how to proceed. He explains that he's been summoned with an ultimatum: meet the sponsors within 2 days or face death. Considering his options, he proposes sending a direct message to the sponsors via video. They agree, and the scene shifts. Elsewhere, a director is engaged in a call where Mib informs him of Park Suho's appearance. Park Suho, after dining with Suho Guild members, is en route to the level 5 dungeon where a previous incident occurred. It appears he intends to enter the dungeon soon. A director instructs to keep surveillance on him and holds off further action. Inside the DGB office, a director makes a call to someone seeking assistance. He asks if Vitamin has a member named Song Yi. He points out during their last interview that her ideal type is Park Suho and suggests they capitalize on this for scandal marketing with their upcoming new song. Instructing the driver to turn the car around, they decide to pick up a customer. Meanwhile, the director receives a call from the chairman, who's visibly upset with him. Hone defends his efforts for the DGB group, questioning why he's being treated this way, and probing into the chairman's suspicions about his current activities. Asserting his commitment to benefiting the group, Hone announces his intention to undertake a project that will prove advantageous. The chairman grows angrier upon hearing his plans to recruit Park Sul, warning him not to cause trouble since General Manager Kaon has already been dispatched. After ending the call, Hone receives another call, this time from Songyi, inquiring about the introduction to Park Suho. He directs her to meet him at the main entrance as he heads to the office. Shortly after, a helicopter arrives to scan the building for Kim Jong-gu. DGB's X-team locates him, but before they can reach him, goblins attack. Jong-gu manages to fend them off but slips and falls. Just as the goblins close in, DGB's X-team intervenes, saving him and advising him to surrender. Later, Cheneng receives a call from the X-team members confirming Jong-gu's capture, instructing them to store him safely in the warehouse. On the other side, the director arrives and questions Mi about the situation. Mai explains that Jong-gu attempted to introduce himself to Park Suho, but was ignored, highlighting Suho's swift and dismissive demeanor. Hone remarks on the dangers of approaching Suho alone, likening it to entering a level 5 dungeon recklessly, suggesting that Jong-gu might face serious consequences this time. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Park Suho continues to eliminate goblins, checking his achievements on the status window as he progresses. Noticing some unfinished business, he discovers a lone goblin still alive. With a swift strike, he eliminates the remaining threat, claiming the blood crystal and boosting his achievement score once more. The status window prompts him, asking if he wishes to open the beast farm. Deciding to proceed, he designates the location as Suho Land. As he sets up, goblins attempt an ambush, but he effortlessly subdues them with his formidable power. Meanwhile, the director sits in a club when he receives a call from Mib, who informs him that Park Suho has emerged. Shocked by this sudden development, the director quickly shifts gears. On the other side, Park Suho finds himself under attack by archers. He commands his wolves to retreat and unleashes his wings, conjuring a powerful tornado that sends the goblins airborne. Amidst the chaos, the boss orc emerges from its castle. Transforming into a gray wolf, Park Suho engages the boss in a fierce battle, ultimately slaying it and earning 238 achievement points. The dungeon door then opens 450 meters southwest, prompting him to sprint towards it and exit the dungeon. Outside, Song-yi approaches Park Suho and questions his identity. Mib informs the director that they have made contact and are heading to a cafe together. He instructs Mib to maintain surveillance as he rushes to intercept them. Arriving at the cafe, the director inquiries about Park Suho's whereabouts from Song-yi. She informs him that Park Suho mentioned disliking her because of her perceived weakness. causing her to leave. The director turns to MIB for an explanation. MIB reveals that Park Soo-ho values strength in his partners and suggests a capable individual among their awakeners, A-ranker Kim Mi-jung. The director then asks for Park Soo-ho's current location, learning that he has returned to the dungeon. Moments later, the director spots Park Soo-ho exiting the dungeon again. Taken aback by the sight, determined to apprehend him this time, the director and his team approach. However, before the director can speak, Park Soo-ho swiftly re-enters the dungeon, frustrating the director. Chief Secretary Cheon intervenes, advising the director to cease his pursuit due to the public scrutiny and potential rumors that could worsen their situation. Acknowledging his mistake, he agrees to let Cheon take over. Cheon suggests he retire for the day, assuring him that he's done all he can. Reassured, he acknowledges that establishing a connection with Park Soo-ho today might be too late, and leaves the situation in Cheon's hands. After a while, Park Soo-ho emerges from the dungeon, and Cheon approaches him, introducing himself as the chief secretary of the DGB group. He expresses apologies for the incident involving Jong-gu entering a level 5 dungeon, thanking Soo-ho for bringing fame to the portal and revitalizing commercial industries in the area. Cheon mentions they have prepared something in return and proposes visiting the best gastronomy venture in the 4th district, where they have a reservation to continue their conversation. Hungry from his exertions, Soo-ho agrees, finding the idea appealing. Later, they sit together in a restaurant, Soo-ho finishing his meal and expressing satisfaction. Cheon acknowledges Soo-ho's enjoyment and mentions they still have gifts prepared for him. Soo-ho remarks humorously about using an apology as an excuse to spend money and asks what Cheon wants from him. Cheon then brings up the DGB group's desire to officially partner with the Soo-ho Guild. He explains that despite DGB's prominence in Korea's financial circles, they haven't been able to elevate to a position representing one of Seoul's 12 sectors due to their inability to form a level 6 combat team. He emphasizes that partnering with Soo-ho Guild could help them achieve this goal. Soo-ho, however, states his lack of interest in becoming one of Seoul's 12 representing guilds, clarifying that Seoul's sectors aren't their primary objective. Cheon proposes a different vision, opening Seoul's 13th sector in collaboration with Soo-ho Guild. He elaborates that similar to the 12 sectors of Seoul, establishing a level 6 guild station would naturally lead to the development of a city around it. Currently, the guilds across Seoul's 12 sectors are facing significant challenges due to the emergence of a level 6 dungeon, causing widespread anxiety among citizens. Park Soo-ho predicts that people will start migrating to the 13th sector, leading to a drastic increase in land prices. The citizens pin their hopes on the Soo-ho Guild's ability to alleviate these concerns. However, there's a critical hurdle the Soo-ho Guild must overcome. They lack the capital, manpower, and experience to independently create and manage a city. Expressing his concerns, Park Soo-ho acknowledges that while he possesses financial resources and experience, he lacks the strength needed for such a monumental task. He questions whether the Soo-ho Guild alone can accomplish this feat. He challenges the notion of why the top guilds in Korea receive aid not from the national government, but from major corporations. In response, the director assures Park Soo-ho that the DGB can be the Soo-ho Guild's ideal partner. He suggests a cooperative effort where they could potentially monopolize construction in residential and commercial areas around dungeons. Though Park Soo-ho acknowledges the practicality of this arrangement, he requests time to consider the proposal, noting that the creation of the 13th sector won't be a swift process. As their discussion winds down, the director mentions a forgotten gift, a crucial piece that was challenging to acquire. He reveals that since Park Soo-ho was placed on the wanted list, he had hidden in the fields to evade capture. The DGB Guild's investigation team has now identified the president of Yari Loan Company, who is presumed dead and left for Park Soo-ho to handle as he sees fit. This revelation prompts Park Soo-ho to question why such actions were necessary. Park Soo-ho then contacts Park Jun-ho, who is playing with Ganwoo, and informs him that someone wishes to meet him. He provides the address of the DGB distribution center, instructing him to go there directly and take some medicine beforehand. With that, Park Soo-ho leaves, confident that his younger brother can handle matters independently. Cheon earnestly invites Park Soo-ho to consider the DGB group as family, encouraging him to reach out whenever he wishes. Later, Park Jun-ho arrives at the DGB distribution center and enters a container where he finds Kim Jong-soo tied to a chair in a dire state, severely injured. He questions why Jong-soo is there, to which Jong-soo responds that someone wanted to see him. Jun-ho asks if his brother accompanied him, but Jong-soo explains that his brother didn't come along. Jun-ho presses on, asking why Jong-soo wanted to see him. Jong-soo expresses a sincere apology for the altercation where he hit Junho, citing his anger over his brother's associates attacking him. He denies any involvement in the incident where his brother was lured into a level 5 dungeon, claiming it was orchestrated by the Bureau and DGB to exploit his brother while leaving him as a scapegoat. This betrayal led to his business collapsing, forced him to flee into hiding, fearing for his life. Junho asks if he can leave, but Jong-soo pleads for his help to escape from this dangerous situation. He reminds Junho of the financial assistance he provided in the past and how he helped find employment for Gunwoo's mom, despite her request not to disclose it. Jong-soo recounts a time when he ran the Yari Employment Center and helped Gon's mom find a job when she was in dire straits. The scene flashes back to when Kim Jong-soo visited Junho's house and threatened his wife, concerned about their mounting debts due to Junho's inability to handle the situation. Pleads for her life, and Jong-soo asks if there's food at home if she wants help finding a job. He assures her that with his assistance, she could repay their debts in less than 3 months, offering her money and a contract for organ sales, suggesting her life could change instantly. He leaves with a warning that if they return and don't find her husband, will take her instead. Park Soo-ho sat in the back of his car. The city lights blurred through the tinted windows as he received a message from Kim Miso. The words flashed across his screen, bringing news that Dr. Toddler had finally responded. They were to meet in England. As he read the message, memories flooded back to when Miso had praised his inventions, the dimensional energy measuring device and the blood crystal generator. She had credited him with initiating the dimensional industrial era. Suo's thoughts raced. Dr. Toddler might hold the key to unraveling the mystery behind the time mix-up, the dimensional crack, and the planet where he had been stranded. Perhaps through Toddler, there was a chance, a slim hope, to reunite with his long-lost brothers. Frustration pricked him as he tried to call Park Junho, but there was no answer. Determined, he instructed his driver to head towards the DGB container on the outskirts of the city. Park Junho, known for his resourcefulness, was their best chance at finding answers. At the DGB container, Park Junho emerged with Kim Jong-gu in tow, swiftly transporting him into Suho's waiting car. The journey to their destination was tense, Suho's mind occupied with thoughts of Gunwoo's mom. Finally arriving, he questioned Junho about her whereabouts. Junho gestured to his men who had arrived to escort them. Their faces lit up with relief and joy at seeing their boss alive, teasing Junho in good-natured banter. Amidst the camaraderie, Junho directed them to a building where grim scenes awaited. Blood stained the floors, remnants of a once thriving grinder lending company. Kim Jong-soo, grim-faced, explained the grim reality. Over 200 lives had met a gruesome end here. Junho's heart sank as he pressed further about Gunwoo's mom. The answer came in a cruel blow. She had met her end in the same grisly manner. Anguish and rage surged through him, directed at the man before him who dared to speak ill of her. In a flash of fury, Junho struck out, the force of his blow landing harshly on Jong-soo. Words spilled out amidst the violence, accusations of how their business had collapsed because of Junho's actions. Memories of his wife flooded Junho's mind. He had failed to protect her from a fate so horrific. Through the pain and haze, Junho's thoughts turned to Mang, the only person who had understood him. He regretted how little he had given her in return, only the erratic struggles of someone fighting against poverty and harsh realities. If only he could see her again, he would plead for forgiveness, beg for another chance to make things right. Kim Jong-gu threatens to break Park Junho's ankles, as he did to Junho's wife, and prepares to lower him feet first. A man approaches with a hammer, but Junho swiftly rises, cutting the man's arm. He declares he can't allow them to live and begins attacking, swiftly dispatching the assailant. Within moments, Junho decapitates Kim Jong-soo. Chaos erupts as everyone flees for their lives, but Park Soo-ho calmly stands in a building with a sniper rifle, taking down another fleeing man. He reflects on seeing his brother, and expresses confidence that he will do well even without Junho. Meanwhile, the news announces that despite ongoing dungeon breaches in Jongguk Sector 2 and the Old Child-do area, the assistance from special forces from Seoul, Buen, and Gwangju provinces has noticeably improved safe. However, concerns grow among citizens that guilds alone struggle to manage the increasing number of dungeons. The broadcast highlights the cheers of soldiers, particularly Special Forces 77A, recognized as Korea's most potent combat team, as they return to temporary barracks after completing their mission. Switching to another news item, a scandal involving Song Yi and Park Soo-ho captures attention. Choi Soo-young watches this on TV and becomes visibly upset. Shortly after, Kim Miso receives a call from Park Soo-ho, who expresses curiosity about the effects of a necroveal bite on an awakener. Clarifying that no one has been bitten, Soo-ho explains he's merely curious. Miso responds that there have been 38 reported cases of awakeners infected by necrovils, detailing various side effects. In one case, 2 individuals died suddenly from leukemia, while 26 experienced baldness and 7 reported sporadic pain in the bitten area. Additionally, 3 F-rank awakeners transformed into necrovilles, suffering from symptoms like high fever, body pain, redness at the site of the bite. The data indicates a higher likelihood of transformation into a necroville among lower-ranked awakeners. Park Soo-ho, now in Australia, voiced his concern about potential experimentation after being bitten. Kim Miso reassured him, explaining they would be quarantined at the International Disease Control Center, where accommodations and a vaccine clinical trial were available. Despite her assurances, Suho remained wary of being treated as a test subject. In a different encounter, Suho met a man cloaked in black who greeted him warmly. They discussed medication for Suho's brother, mentioning a recent case of a bite wound. The man offered a versatile medicine, previously effective on various animals, promising it would heal the wound within a week with regular application. Negotiating a deal, Suho purchased 10 tins at a reduced price, grateful for the favor. Their transaction was abruptly interrupted by guards, prompting the man to swiftly transform into a pigeon and escape. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Dong-soo and the others attended to Monk, whose condition had worsened. Park Jun-ho arrived and, in a fit of anger, confronted the monk violently. As events unfolded, news reports highlighted the emergence of a Level S dungeon in Sapporo City, drawing global attention. Hero's combat team, after 10 days and 11 hours inside, finally emerged. Cheers erupted as citizens celebrated their safe return, although the team members were collapsing one by one. Healers rushed to their aid, including Hero, who had also fallen ill. According to on-site reports, spots have opened up on the team, with 7 members not returning from the dungeon. The loss of Hero's combat team, known as the world's most powerful, suffering 7 casualties in a Level 7 dungeon, raises serious concerns about its difficulty. Hero awakens in the hospital to Akiko's inquiry about his well-being. He requests water, and she reassures him, absolving him of blame for the situation. She also mentions that Park Soo-ho has extended an invitation, prompting Hero to suspect something fishy. He believes that the second-in-command of the Supernatural Bureau, responsible for national defense, holds more prestige than the Awakened Federation that brought him there. This hints at governmental attempts to establish contact with Park Soo-ho. Hero is convinced that he's being used as a benchmark to shape a better future, making further delays unacceptable. The unexpected appearance of a Level 7 dungeon resulted in the unnecessary loss of 7 comrades, which he blames himself for. He concludes that someone who gathers criminals cannot have good intentions. For the sake of humanity's future, he resolves to eliminate Park Soo-ho. He instructs Akiko to immediately locate all boats capable of traveling from Tsushima to Busan. If none are available, she's to arrange for one to be commissioned so they can depart swiftly. Meanwhile, Park Jun-ho wakes up at home and notices his card on the table, realizing he's now registered as mercenary Handong. As he sits in his room, he checks the Suho Guild TV channel and observes a decline in views since Suho's identity as a dungeon Ruri became public knowledge. Lost in thought about his wealth, Curly Hair is interrupted by Junho entering the room and asking about Jaishik's whereabouts. Junho assumes Jaishik, a training maniac, is likely practicing in the woods, reflecting on the importance of maintaining pace to avoid falling behind again. Park Soo-ho, concerned with monk Myungjin's health, learned from Myungjin that the monk was recovering well, exercising and eating properly after a difficult period. Myungjin shared his childhood struggles with Suho, recounting how he had been bullied as an orphan with congenital alopecia, which led him to build emotional walls. However, a master's intervention had changed his life, bringing him to Bonoma Temple, where he found purpose in rebuilding it after a devastating fire. Myungjin had since dedicated himself to helping those in pain, vowing to walk the path of an Asura beside them. Cheech 56. In another setting, Hiro and Akiko approached Busan by boat while on Suho land, enjoying a meal together. Park informed them of a call from Chief Secretary Chin of DGB, confirming the completion of city plans and upcoming infrastructure and residential construction. Suho emphasized the need for quality work during his absence. Meanwhile, Jong Ishik questioned Suho's travel plans to England to meet Dr. Toddler, pointing out that all air and sea routes were closed due to reported disturbances involving wyverns and megal prisons. Park Junho suggested flying might still be feasible, but Suho noted his limited flight time as a pigeon. The group discussed recent efforts by the Chinese combat team against the monsters, estimating a month to neutralize the threat. Handong, believing there must be another way, suggests finding an awakened golden eagle and taming it. Park Suho asks where he could find such a creature, and Handong mentions seeing it in a video on a survival YouTube channel. He explains that north of the DMZ is currently a haven for wild animals, and the video showcased various massive wild animals that had awakened to survive, including a giant golden eagle. Meanwhile, Hiro and Akiko travel to Seoul by car. Akiko expresses concern about their location potentially being leaked, which could lead to a significant diplomatic issue between countries. She suggests it might be safer to bring Park Suho onto an official stage like the SFC. However, Hiro insists they cannot delay any longer and that quietly assassinating him would be the cleanest method. On the other side, Park Suho and Dong-soo arrive at the DMZ to search for the Golden Eagle. However, Dong-soo is surrounded by a large boar from level 5 and a black rabbit from level 2. Park Suho intervenes, dispatching the rabbit and riding the boar, stating they need a ride. Eventually, he finds a wolf and begins searching for the Golden Eagle they came for. During this time, Park Suho calls Kim Miso, inquiring about Choi Soo-young's whereabouts, as he has been unable to reach her. Kim Miso informs him that Choi Soo-young was dispatched to the region and offers to try contacting her. Meanwhile, Choi Soo-young's team faces urgency to retreat as their backup team is delayed in reaching them. She instructs them to pack all equipment and withdraw. Just as she prepares to leave, Park Suho calls again, urgently needing to find an eagle and asking if she can use her clairvoyance to locate one. Annoyed, she hangs up abruptly. Dong-soo notices smoke ahead and asks what it might be. Park Suho observes it, suggesting it looks like smoke to him. Consulting his phone, Dong-soo shows an article reporting on starfish breaking loose and moving toward Gangwon-do. He explains that these creatures shoot fire, causing explosions and burning their surroundings even after death, making them highly troublesome to deal with. After noticing feathers and realizing a wildfire was spreading rapidly, Dong-soo suggested they evacuate, with animals and birds fleeing to safety. Park Suho speculated it might be arson. Suddenly, he spotted the Golden Eagle among the birds, lifting his spirits momentarily. News reports confirmed the wildfire in Gangande, attributing it to a local updraft intensifying a fire started by a starfish. Later, Dong-soo, frustrated with low TV news ratings, uploaded a video he had recorded, quickly amassing 400,000 views. Park Jun-ho and Jang Isa called Suho, alerting him to a nearby level 2 dungeon and their remaining 3 free passes. Suho questioned if they could handle it alone, to which Jun-ho cited his extensive skills. Jang mentioned Monk Myung-jin waiting in the car. Suho agreed to join them after finishing editing his video, which now included an urgent advertisement about Earth besieged by monsters, emphasizing his relentless pursuit of adventure. Meanwhile, at the motel, Akiko showed Hiro the advertisement, noting Park Suho was no longer in Korea. Speculating on Suho's sudden trip to London, Hiro wondered if Suho, possibly from a more distant future, knew his plans and avoided him deliberately. He concluded Suho's evasion meant he wasn't ready to confront him yet, deciding to provoke Suho into action to bring him onto the stage. On his journey to London, Park Suho pondered the delay, anxious about reaching his destination on time. As he checks his status screen, Park Suho notices that a fire attribute skill has been removed, speculating that he might have missed the alert due to passing out after extinguishing the wildfire. He reviews the fire fares point and realizes it's quite expensive. Suddenly, his status screen displays fusion time remaining 60 seconds. Meanwhile, Chul-yong is with his uncle Jong-seong, aiming at a bull. Chul-yong shoots the bull and then notices something falling from the sky. Curious, he asks his uncle what it could be. Jong-seong dismisses the question, focusing only on securing the cow. They approach the fallen object and discover numerous fire fairies. Chul-yong remarks that the sound they make resembles human speech. Jong-seong speculates humorously that they might be alien creatures mimicking human sounds. At the same time, Park Suho climbs a mountain and expresses relief at surviving his recent ordeal, remarking on his brush with death. Upon encountering Chul-yong and Jong-seong, he introduces himself and inquires about their whereabouts. Chul-yong introduces himself and marvels at Park Suho's resilience after such a fall. Park Suho explains he was flying and then suddenly fell. Park Suho checks his phone to verify his location, but realizes he has dropped it somewhere along the way. Using his powers, he locates the phone but finds it broken. Frustrated, he contemplates his next steps. Back with Chul-yong and Jong-seong, they discuss their plans to move the bull. Jong-seong suggests they might need to butcher it to transport it effectively, considering the presence of wild animals that could pose a threat. Park Suho asks if he could borrow a blood crystal phone from them. Chul-yong mentions they have one in their village, but Jong-seong cautions him to be discreet, as bringing an awakened individual like Park Suho back to the village might concern the women and children there. As he hoisted the bull effortlessly, Cho-young urged caution, suggesting they should not return directly to the village. Jong-seong reminded them of the past treachery by the roaming awakeners, who had deceived them into bringing their companions to plunder their village. Sitting atop their bikes, they motioned for him to follow. They were astonished by his agility as they sped towards their village. Arriving, they were dismayed to find it in disrepair. Jong-seong demanded to know what had happened. Noticing the broken gate, he explained that a winged beast had attacked spewing fire and causing chaos. In the midst of the mayhem, Zhonggong had led survivors to shelters, but Heian had been abducted. Zhonggong had pursued the beast with a few followers towards a rocky mountain. Cho Young approached Park Suho, pleading for help, promising to repay the favor. Suho agreed, instructing Cho Young to borrow his phone upon his return. Transforming into an eagle, Suho soared towards the mountain. Meanwhile, Kongchul fled from a pursuing bear, narrowly avoiding its grasp until he stumbled over a stone and fell. Zhongyong rushed to his aid, but the bear retaliated, leaving them both wounded. Realizing their dire situation, they feared they might not survive long enough to rescue Heian. In the midst of despair, one among them despaired that Heian was likely already lost to the winged creature. However, before they could succumb to hopelessness, Park Suho appeared, swiftly dispatching the bear with a powerful kick. As they gaped in astonishment, Suho revealed he had come at Cho Young's request. Eagerly, they asked about Heian's whereabouts, hoping Suho's arrival heralded a chance to save her. Park Suho responds that it seems she was taken to a nest of winged creatures somewhere on the mountain. However, due to the sudden bear attack, they are currently stuck. He asks if this means they don't know her exact location. As the bear attempts another attack, Park Suho retaliates and defeats it. He instructs the bear not to pretend to be dead, but to open its eyes, bow down, and follow him. Park Suho questions the bear if it knows where the winged creature is, suggesting they go seek revenge. Jong Sung arrives and inquires about her location. Park Suho informs him that he will retrieve the child, so Jong Sung should keep his promise with the bear. With the bear by his side, Park Suho runs and transforms himself into an eagle, flying away. After a while, they find her sitting in the cave of the winged creature, crying. When Park Suho and the bear arrive, he identifies it as a wyvern and initiates an attack, forcing it out of the cave. He assures her that he will rescue her and instructs her to stay put. Observing the wyvern's high-dimensional energy, Park Suho contemplates the possibility of taming it. He checks his status screen and concludes it might be feasible. Despite the challenging battle, he continues to fight, and the wyvern's constitution level decreases to 9%. He decides it's time to tame it, using emergency recovery to heal its wounds. Then he sits on it and starts riding. After a while, Park Suho and Heian reach the village riding on the tamed wyvern, shocking everyone. They sit down to eat and the children play with the wyvern. Park Suho watches them and notices that since it has been tamed, the wyvern is much friendlier towards others, as long as they aren't its enemy. Once a creature is tamed, Park Suho can see its past. He learns that the horde of wyverns above Mount was nearly annihilated by the Chinese and Russian alliance. This wyvern was flying far behind the rest of the horde, which allowed it to survive. Despite escaping the battlefield, it suffered from pain and hunger. When the winged creature crossed the border after raiding the village and kidnapping the child, it stumbled upon Ilgom's cave, which housed abundant food reserves for the bears. Gratefully, Jungmong thanked Park Suho, marveling at how he magically provided them with food, repaired their houses, and healed their injuries. He reminisced about happier times before the government's collapse in the wake of the Great Disaster, when warlords seized power and internal strife tore communities apart. Despite past hardships, they had once thrived as a close-knit family, neighbors supporting one another in times of need. Reflecting on the current challenges, Jungmong pondered how they could defend themselves against relentless creature attacks, which had forced many to flee to the mainland in search of safety. Initially, over 400 settlers had joined them, seeking refuge from the turmoil. Their numbers had dwindled to just 60 over the 2 years since their arrival. The latest incident had occurred just as they prepared to relocate, pushing them to their limits. Park Suho queried about safety on the mainland, wondering if it offered a viable refuge. Jungmong acknowledged the vastness and potential dangers of the continent, with its hordes of creatures and marauders far outnumbering those on their isolated island. He mentioned rumors of protective barriers shielding Beijing, offering some hope, albeit at the cost of being far from home, language barriers, and lack of connections. As they deliberated their options, Zhonggong pointed out a cleaned-out room on the second floor, suggesting it as a temporary refuge for Park Suho. Grateful for the hospitality, Suho instructed Cho Yong to retrieve a redstone handphone from the room. Taking the phone, Suho assured them he would put it to good use before his departure. Before leaving, he conjured numerous blood crystal stones with his magic, advising them to use these artifacts in times of dire need. The newscast reports that the horde of wyverns, which had been blocking airways and causing fear, was annihilated over Mount by the Russian and Chinese alliance this morning. Another battle occurred between the surviving wyvern and the Russian Air Force. Video footage of the wyvern being controlled by an awakener is spreading rapidly among witnesses, people cheering the appearance of a dragon knight. Meanwhile, a portal breach on a bridge unexpectedly released 2 fire ants, plunging the entire bridge into chaos. Hiro arrives at the bridge with the Shilla Guild and eliminates the monsters within 10 minutes. In other news, it's announced that the Dragon Knight fighting on the Wyvern is surprisingly Korean, identified as Park Suho. The report mentions controversy sparked by an interview with the Japanese hero Hiro, who received attention for his appearance at Banpo Bridge. Hiro claims Park Suho, known for his taming skill and dubbed the Tornado God, came to prove his skills are a scam. He alleges Park Suho fled upon learning of his arrival in Korea, fearing exposure as a fraud manipulated by the government for profit. Hiro challenges Park Suho to abandon the circus and prove himself on the SFC stage if he's watching. Park Junho watches the news about Park Suho's activities in Russia, questioning his whereabouts after previously claiming to be headed to England. The director contacts Park Junho, asking about Park Suho, but they too are unable to reach him. Dong-soo remarks that just a few months ago, Park Suho wouldn't dare bother them, yet now he pesters them almost daily. He also notes that Park Suho's current worth is exceedingly high, highlighting that many people are eager to relocate to the area once it's designated as the 13th district of Seoul. The world's anticipation of having Park Suho in their midst resonates with him, affirming that people should aspire to live in such a way. He further adds that the director has proposed constructing a protective wall around Park Suho's land upon its designation as Seoul's 13th district, along with suggesting tax exemptions and the Bureau taking responsibility for managing easier dungeons. Moreover, he mentions their hopes for Park Suho's guild to join as the advanced team when a level 7 dungeon emerges. However, he acknowledges his inability to make such decisions in Park Suho's absence. He also expresses doubts about whether their guild can handle the responsibilities of becoming the 13th district and managing S-rated dungeons concurrently. He emphasizes that being the advanced team for level 7 dungeons would entail the best treatment, but would also involve significant risk, suggesting it's a decision not to be rushed into. Reflecting on the turmoil in Korea sparked by Hiro's provocations regarding the 13th district, he observes that Park Suho seems steadfast in pursuing his agenda. Shortly after, Dr. Toddler contacts Park Suho by phone, requesting a meeting as he's en route to their designated location. Dr. Toddler also mentions spotting 3 stone golems behind his car. Park Suho calmly assures him that he'll handle them, swiftly dispatching the golems with his fire fairy powers. He remarks that despite their imposing appearance, they were surprisingly weak, perhaps due to their low level. Dr. Toddler expresses admiration, affirming that Park Suho is every bit as excellent as rumored. He takes note of a wyvern nearby, identifying it as the famous Tattoo Wyvern, cautioning about potential confusion in artistic depictions by Russians, mistaking it for other wyverns. Seeking more details from the artist, Dr. Toddler learns about its status as a legendary creature in artistic circles, concludes by mentioning that despite their brief encounter, he could sense the aura of the Dragon Knight in Park Suho and expresses gratitude for his timely intervention. He remarks on the smooth translation and assumes it must be using a high-quality Korean translator, possibly the Blood Crystal translator from the neighboring region, speculating if they're in London due to the chaotic situation. He notes the dire conditions there, especially after sunset when the area becomes more hazardous. He suggests they proceed with their plans. Park Suho orders the wyvern to return home and opens what he calls a beast summoning portal. Seeing such a large creature enter implies it's at least level 3. Dr. Toddler acknowledges Park Suho's knowledge and mentions he's currently a hot topic worldwide, expressing his desire to meet him. He asks about Dr. Toddler's lab, which he reveals is in Nudover. Park Suho questions why they're meeting in the current location instead of at the lab. Dr. Toddler explains he came to gather materials for his research, citing a recent large-scale bombing in London that provided tissue samples and blood crystals from deceased monsters. He's researching the possibility of creating a permanent teleportation portal akin to the Beast Farm portal. He suggests that monster teleportation portals could enable rapid worldwide travel, even if skies and seas are overrun by monsters. Park Suho finds the idea convenient and emphasizes the urgency of preparing for a future where airlines and sea routes might be blocked. He believes humanity must prepare adequately to avoid isolation and survival challenges. Suddenly, he asks Dr. Toddler why he suddenly wanted to meet. A humpback whale appears in front of their car, nearly causing a collision. A tentacle shark approaches to attack, threatening to break the bridge. A helicopter arrives and announces a crash involving a small vehicle crossing the bridge, with rescue efforts underway. David asks if the car that fell belonged to Professor Toddler. She instructs them to handle the tentacle shark while she dives underwater to check the empty car and observe the shark chasing the whale. As the humpback whale emerged from the water, the rescue team noticed people on its back. Dr. Toddler, positioned on the whale's fin, expressed concern that they might be in danger of being consumed. Park Suho swiftly intervened, using his powers to conjure a tornado and summon his fire fairy, successfully rescuing both Dr. Toddler and the whale. After some time, they found themselves sitting in a house on a mountain, enjoying tea. Park Soo-ho admired the beauty of their surroundings, remarking on the picturesque location. Dr. Toddler, reflecting on their encounter with the whale, mentioned that such creatures had likely become extinct due to sea monster attacks. He expressed gratitude for encountering this particular whale. He described their location as a town at the edge of the world, explaining that England had been pushed to the continent's end, leaving them no place to retreat. He mentioned a large-scale construction project underway to erect protective walls. Still shaken by the previous night's terrifying events, Dr. Toddler found it surprising that he could communicate with the tamed animal and witness firsthand the fire tornado, a phenomenon previously only seen on YouTube. He marveled at Park Soo-ho's ability to tame beasts and wield skills across all 4 attributes: earth, wind, fire, and water, feat unprecedented among awakeners. Curious about Park Soo-ho's life before awakening, Dr. Toddler inquired about his ordinary existence and how he transitioned to his unique role in the animal kingdom. Park Soo-ho confirmed inventing the dimension energy measuring device and explained its principles. Dr. Toddler mentioned feeling observed whenever his dimensional energy was measured, linking it to the fragmented planet from which he originated. Once a thriving world, it had inexplicably transformed into scattered dungeons filled with unfamiliar creatures, replacing his animal friends. Dr. Toddler sought answers about his friend's fate, his immortality over a millennium without aging, and the identity of those constantly monitoring his dimensional energy. He states that the reason he traveled all this way is to seek answers to these questions from someone who is an expert on the topic. He suggests that he believes his recent interest in the Korean language are related. Dr. Toddler takes him underground into the basement, explaining that it has been constructed to withstand even a nuclear bomb. He adds that it serves as his lab, but also functions as a government facility, and Park Soo-ho is the first outsider to enter this place. Dr. Toddler apologizes for the messiness, which Park Soo-ho agrees with. Despite its appearance, Dr. Toddler explains that the facilities are fully equipped, including lab equipment for analysis and an equipment tester. This impressive device can automatically visualize the blueprint of any object when its code is input, and can even recognize voices. He also highlights the ores found in dungeons, emphasizing their practical research applications. Dr. Toddler inquires about the familiar scribbles and mentions they are images taken from dungeons over the past 2 months. He finds it surprising that Earth languages, specifically Hanel, have been discovered in all the dungeons they've entered recently. Park Soo-ho explains that dungeons of various levels have appeared in different cities around the world, such as a level 3 dungeon in Berlin, a level 4 dungeon in Oslo, and a level 5 dungeon in Athens. These dungeons have appeared in 8 locations in Europe, 2 in Africa, and 3 in Asia, including the recent one in Korea. Dr. Toddler confirms that the dungeons vary in levels and appear at different times. He recalls being informed about connected portals appearing near attorneys and wonders if the current situation is due to a dungeon rather than a new planet. He speculates whether a planet shattered and was duplicated, questioning the fate of its inhabitants. His curiosity is why he wants to speak with Park Soo-ho, as he hopes meeting him will unveil the truth behind the creation and destruction of dungeons, which has led to numerous hypotheses and confusion. However, one day, the creator of the Hangul writing system, whom he had longed to meet, finally contacted him. Reflecting on their encounter, he initially wondered if this person possessed any pertinent information. The creator, aware of his curiosity about the dimensional energy measuring device, quickly assured him that there was something he needed to see. Leading him to a hidden corner, he revealed an object, a stone unlike any other, explaining that it was called a memory stone. Park Soo-ho's curiosity piqued. He inquired about its significance. The creator explained that thanks to the information stored in these memory stones, they have been able to develop numerous revolutionary devices. One of these was the stone case, a device designed to process and connect with the memory stones, extracting the vast knowledge etched within them. He further detailed that the memory stone had a unique capability. Upon contact with any entity, it would exchange and integrate information, albeit with some limitations. Eager to demonstrate, the creator invited Park Soo-ho to touch the screen of the stone case. As he did so, Park Soo-ho was astounded to discover that his dimensional energy had surged beyond a B rank in just 3 months. Recognizing the impact of being a regular, he pondered on the implications of such achievements. Park Soo-ho then questioned if this was a portable dimensional energy measuring device, to which the creator affirmed. Additionally, he outlined plans to continually shrink its size for practicality. Intrigued, Park Soo-ho inquired about a physical measuring device the creator had recently developed, which also utilized the memory stone. Confirming this, Dr. Toddler explained that while the stone case served a different function, Ongoing research had unveiled its ability to exchange substantial amounts of information. Recently, they had discovered it could analyze a person's physical attributes as well. This breakthrough enabled them to assess and awaken latent strengths and agility, not solely based on dimensional energy, but also on physical abilities. Dr. Toddler elaborated that this capability would allow them to assemble more effective combat teams, surpassing their current limitations. He concluded by highlighting the novelty of having an Awaken who could perceive not only their own physical attributes, but also those of others. Meanwhile, he mentions that he has finished creating the prototype, and the official showcase is scheduled for tomorrow. He adds that it would be a great honor if Park Suho would be the first to try it out. Park Suho agrees, but the device suddenly displays an error, which puzzles him since there were no issues yesterday. He quickly calls the director to inform them that they might need to cancel the scheduled showcase due to the unexpected machine error. After some time, Park Suho comes across a picture and comments on how certain areas were focused on classy novels, wondering why they only concentrated on such matters. He apologizes and expresses a desire to continue their conversation. Then something suddenly comes up. He asks a question about where all these stones came from. In response, Dr. Toddler mentions that memory stones are mined from the planet Aruka. The scene shifts to Suho's guild, where Hiro arrives with his swords covered in blood, frightening the children. Gunwoo asks him who he is. Dr. Toddler observes that memory stones seem to be quite common unless they are broken into very small pieces, sharing the same energy wavelength. He explains that if blood crystals are like batteries, then memory stones serve as transmission devices. He continues to explain that the high elves of planet Iruka use these stones to communicate from one end of the planet to the other. When asked about the term high elves, he clarifies that it refers to the high-ranking elves on planet Iruka. The dimensional energy measuring device was an additional result of their research. Their ultimate research goal is to create a communication network that specifically the high elves can use, with plans to replicate it on Earth. Furthermore, they aim to develop a teleportation portal that can connect the entire planet. This information is based on secret insights gathered from elves who occasionally visit Earth. On Aruka, the High Elves use memory stones to observe other people's dimensional energy levels, class, and other important traits. Park Suho considers the implications of meeting a High Elf, knowing it would expose all his personal information. He wonders if the status window he sees is the same as the one visible to High Elves. Checking his status screen, he finds no signal. Determined to fix this issue, he resolves to stay up all night in the lab if necessary. Park decides to wait for a moment, noting that someone will arrive soon. He suggests exploring the city in the meantime, but advises not to wander too far and proposes they meet again tomorrow. As he stands alone, he reflects on the limited discoveries made so far. Touching the memory stone, he contemplates that the High Elves on Aruka might have knowledge about the entity observing him and the secrets behind the great disaster and dungeon appearances. He concludes that he needs to travel to Aruka. Meanwhile, William arrives and introduces himself as a guide from the Lauren Corporation, a pioneer in the dimension industry. He directs Park's attention to the screen, indicating a place he wants to visit: the South Portal, SU 1001 in London, the operation area of the 11th Infantry Brigade. William asks if Park intends to participate in clearing the E-1001 portal dungeon, to which Park responds affirmatively. Elsewhere, Dr. Toddler is in his lab, puzzled by an error in Park Suho's data. At that moment, David arrives, mentioning that the Dragon Knight has visited and inquires why she hasn't come to see him. He explains that something urgent came up, and he asks the guide to assist. David requests her to place her hand on an energy measurement device. She complies, and the device displays her strength and agility. Pleased with the results, Dr. Toddler notes that the numbers should reach 4 digits to be impressive, suggesting she needs more training. As she leaves to find the Dragon Knight, Dr. Toddler contemplates the 4-digit limit, currently set at 9,999, and considers increasing it to 99.99. After adjusting the device, he is shocked by the new results. Meanwhile, Park Suho and William had finally arrived at Portal E-1001. As they approached, a monstrous figure emerged, immediately ensnared in chains and beset by attacking armies. William coolly explained their strategy for paralyzing the creature to facilitate its capture for research purposes. "You're destined to be killed anyway," he remarked, his tone matter-of-fact as he detailed how their company was acquiring them at a low price. Amidst the chaos, William noted they were in a level 5 dungeon teeming with giant grasshoppers, with just 18 hours left until the dungeon break. He elaborated on the current trends in guilds, where celebrity endorsements boosted dungeon profits. "More than half the area is engaged in battles," he added, undeterred by the ongoing skirmishes around them. Their conversation was interrupted by a helicopter crash nearby. William queried the whereabouts of the rest of their team, confirming they had already descended into the dungeon. He introduced them as Lauren, the leader of Phoenix Team 1, renowned for their combat prowess in England. Robert Cole, the ace of the Phoenix team and captain of their second unit, was also among them. Park Suho, however, asserted his intention to raid the dungeon alone, dismissing the assistance offered. Despite the dungeon's challenging level, he focused on his mission, checking his status window, frustrated that it still wasn't working properly. His query about the B-rank Beast Farm's capacity further underscored his determination to proceed solo. William turned to Robert, questioning whether they should follow Park Suho or respect his wish to proceed alone. Robert, pragmatic and understanding, saw no reason to intervene against Park Suho's wishes. As the scene unfolded, David joined them, questioning Robert's presence in such a remote location instead of his usual heroics. Robert calmly explained they were preparing for a quest, emphasizing the seriousness of their mission. David then turned to William, noticing his apparent solitude amidst the chaos, and casually mentioned the Dragon Knight, drawing a brief but intriguing reaction from William. He explains that the Dragon Knight went into the dungeon by himself a moment ago. He couldn't stop him. Expressing concern, he asks what they should do if something goes wrong. She remarks that he doesn't seem to know much about the Dragon Knight and mentions she will wait at the Pink Ice Cream Cafe, asking him to let her know when the Dragon Knight returns. Before heading to the cafe, she notices the Dragon Knight emerging from the dungeon. Excited, she approaches him. Before they can greet properly, a firebar escapes and starts wreaking havoc, destroying her favorite restaurant. Furious, she steps forward and delivers a powerful punch, knocking the firebar down. She then introduces herself to Park Suho, expressing that she has wanted to meet him ever since she saw him turn the Megaloposaladin into fish food. She adds that she recognized they were similar in nature at that moment, expresses her desire to see him fight a monster in close combat, using only his strength. Park Suho agrees, and they both enter the portal together. The news broadcasts that the Dragon Knight, Park Suho, and England's top-ranked fighter David are clearing a level 5 dungeon, having done so 15 times in just 40 minutes. All awakened associations in England, including the Lawrence Company's Phoenix Guild, are expressing their gratitude to Park Suho. Meanwhile, Captain Kim Miso inquires if there has been any news from Park Suho, implies that she can't contact him either. He asks if the Suho dungeon has been cleared, if anything noteworthy was found, informs him that there wasn't anything significant. She questions why he's so concerned, pointing out that as long as they repay all the money, it should be fine. Counters that a level 7 dungeon is about to appear, and she doubts he would be preoccupied with money at this moment. She presses further, asking what's really bothering him, if there's something she doesn't know. He urges her to find a way to bring Park Suho back to Korea quickly. She reassures him, saying he doesn't need to worry too much as Park Suho will return once he checks the internet. She mentions that a video was uploaded to the Suho channel on YouTube an hour ago and shows him the video. The video reveals that Hiro has caused a significant incident, leaving them both concerned about the potential fallout. An announcement filled the air, expressing gratitude to all present for their participation in celebrating the successful dungeon clear. The atmosphere was festive, with hopes expressed that everyone would enjoy the party. Amidst the cheer, David remarked to Park Suho that today seemed to be his best day yet. Suho nodded, recalling with a grin that it felt even better than when he caught that giant tentacle shark. "My fists are among the best I've seen from the Awakened," he added confidently. Curiosity piqued. David asked if Suho had met Sylvia in Russia. Perplexed, Suho inquired about Sylvia. David explained that Sylvia was well known among tamers and had flown to Russia upon hearing about Suho. She speculated that many tamers had journeyed to meet him. Suho, intrigued, asked why Sylvia would want to meet him. As the Dragon Knight, David responded, "There isn't a single tamer in the world who can tame a wyvern like you." Suho casually sipped his drink, remarking that taming wyverns was easy. David cautioned him against rising to the challenge of a champion, prompting Suho to inquire further. She revealed the news about Lee Sunwell, currently ranked first in the world. Originally Korean, his real name was Lee Sunwell, known globally for his heroic achievements. However, David cautioned that Sunwell was also infamous as a murderer. She advised Suho to avoid him if possible, noting Sunwell's prowess and global recognition. She confessed she had once hoped to befriend Sunwell and had even spoken to him once in a friendly setting, but she had lost to him. Despite her defeat, she praised Suho's strength, recalling their match as the best of her life. David mentioned she had seen something unsettling in Sunwell's eyes that day. She extended her arm, showing Suho the result of 8 major surgeries on her left arm, a consequence of her encounter with Sunwell. David explained that many challengers had perished in matches against Sunwell, even in seemingly one-sided contests. Suho was taken aback, wondering what grudge Sunwell held against him to provoke such warnings. As he watched the news of an attack on his territory, shock spread across Suho's face. Meanwhile, he hastily dials Park Jo, who picks up after several rings, his voice laced with concern and frustration. "Why haven't we been able to contact you for so long?" he demands. Without patience for small talk, He cuts him off sharply. "Quiet! Just tell me what's happening there," he commands. In a rushed, tense voice, he relays the urgency of the situation. "Hero has breached our defenses. He's holed up and threatening to execute everyone if he's not allowed to leave. 2 of our wolves on patrol are dead, and there's no clear reason why the alarm failed to signal their attack." He investigates further and discovers a critical flaw in the security system. The signal was jammed. His mind races, trying to piece together why the others failed to respond. Were they restricted to their zones? What were they doing during the incident? Park Jo interrupts his train of thought with defiance. "What do you expect us to do against Lee Sulu? He's ranked #1 in the world." Undeterred, he insists on immediate action. "I need you back here now." Internally, he vows rigorous training upon his return, a punishment in itself. Faced with reluctance from his partner, he listens as she pleads desperately. "Don't go. Lunga's motives are clear. Why are you fixated on him?" She questions the champion's taunting of the unranked awakener, warning of potential catastrophe during their impending match. Despite her concerns, he reassures her, brushing off the dangers with confidence. He asks her to pass on his farewells to Toddler and William, a fleeting moment of tenderness before he leaves. Dr. Toddler watches him with a mixture of regret and pride, wishing he could detain him longer. They exchange a few words, acknowledging the upcoming wyvern summoning. As the beast materializes precisely on schedule, he reflects on the intricate components of its summoning ritual, including the rare combination of memory stone and atacamite. He ponders the elemental aspects of his craft: earth, wind, fire, and water, elements yet to be fully harnessed. Reflecting on Park Suho's renowned abilities with dimensional energy, which closely resembled those of the High Elves, David speculated that Suho's malfunctioning status window was likely due to his recent contact with Eremite. According to David, contact with a large Eremite caused an error in the status window, halting all dimensional energy skills for about 24 hours. This anomaly raised David's thoughts on whether humanity's awakening and evolution mirrored the path of the planet-era elves. Meanwhile, England's Security Service Director, Gilbert Reynolds, contacted David, inquiring about Suho's whereabouts. David confirmed that Suho had just departed, having recorded all pertinent information in the stone. Gilbert informed her that Suho had left earlier than expected and urgently summoned her to the Security Service headquarters. Gilbert also contacted Dr. Toddler, seeking his assessment on the test. Dr. Toddler affirmed that the test had proceeded as anticipated, suggesting that if it worked on Park Suho, it would be effective against the aliens from Planet Era. Dr. Toddler expressed eagerness to teach the arrogant elves a lesson, despite Gilbert's concerns about their close alliance and shared technological knowledge. Dr. Toddler cautioned that alliances were not eternal, hinting at the potential for the Aruka elves to turn against them. He acknowledged ongoing challenges before commercialization, but stressed the rising crime rates among awakeners worldwide, urging regulation as levels equated to power. Concerned about Suho's physical statistics averaging around 8,000, Dr. Toddler questioned whether this would suffice against formidable monsters. Meanwhile, Park Suho journeyed toward his territory, seething with anger at the audacity of the invasion. Determined to retaliate against those who dared encroach upon his land, he plotted their destruction. Dong-su inquired about Suho's intentions. Park Junho revealed Suho's message, instructing them to endure special training till they felt like they were at death's door. They all erupt in frustration and disbelief, their voices blending in a cacophony of anger and despair. "What are we supposed to do against the world's #1, who even took down an S-ranker?" Park Junho's bitter acknowledgement hangs heavy in the air. They know they have no allies in this fight. They huddle together watching the news unfold, each comment and criticism cutting deeper than the last. When Hero appears on screen, the comment section erupts with mockery, labeling them as weaklings. Jang Jae-shik can't contain his frustration, demanding to know why that video was ever uploaded. Dong-su tries to maintain composure, urging them to remain calm despite the disgraceful accusations. Park Junho's warning is sharp and foreboding. "When he returns, know that none of us will be safe. I'm furious." Yongin proposes a drastic measure, suggesting they temporarily withdraw from the guild to weather the storm. Jang Jae-shik seeks answers from the bureau, but Dong-su's response is disheartening. They merely expressed pity, refusing to take any meaningful action against Hero for trespassing and causing harm. Dong-su vents his frustration, questioning why they can't at least hold him accountable for his actions. The frustration escalates as they discuss the lack of support from their own government officials. Mong Jin bitterly remarks on the hypocrisy of those in power, who shift the burden of responsibility onto the citizens. Jang Jae-shik adds to the growing outrage, shocked by the absence of any articles defending their side as victims. Dong-su reluctantly mentions an article from America, suggesting they relocate to a stronger country for protection, a painful reminder of their country's perceived weakness. Park Junho's agreement is grim, but resolute. This happened not because we are weak, but because our country is weak. We should have emigrated long ago. The realization settles heavily among them. Their struggle is not just against Hero, but against the systemic failures and lack of support that have left them vulnerable. As tensions simmer and frustrations mount, they grapple with the harsh reality that they must face this ordeal alone, abandoned by those who should protect them. They recalled the moment when Hero had confronted them, threatening to bring Park Suho in within 10 days, or else they would all face his wrath. Dong-soo insisted on waiting for Suho's return, confident that he would crush Hero into dust. Park Junho agreed, but added that they had something else to attend to before Suho came back. Later, Park Junho and Dong-soo were searching the garden, looking for something they had buried before their departure. Park Junho mentioned that he was certain they had hidden it somewhere nearby. Just then, he received a call from Kim Miso. She expressed gratitude for their cooperation thus far, mentioning that they had successfully explored dungeons with their assistance. Park Junho acknowledged their contractual obligations and quickly ended the call. He suggested to Dong-soo that they should inspect the beast farm. Park Junho suspected that their adversaries might have planted listening devices in strategic locations before departing. He remarked that Section Chief Mu, despite being strict, had always watched out for them. Dong-soo agreed, though he mused about the proverbial warning that one's enemy is often close to home. They arrived at the beast farm and observed the animals playing contentedly. Park Junho commented on their growing family in an ownerless house, wondering aloud where Suho might be. Dong-soo then mentioned a news article from the previous day reporting sightings of Suho riding a humpback whale in the South China Sea and defeating 4 megaloprolodons with an ice vortex. He speculated that if Suho was in the South China Sea, he would soon return home. Dong-soo marveled at Suho's apparent leveling up during his travels, recalling how he had frozen the sea to combat sea monsters. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by breaking news reporting that Park Suho was attacking Tokyo. Shocked, they watched the news unfold, reporting that Suho was demanding Hero to come out. A breaking news broadcast announced that the Dragon Knight had suddenly appeared in the heart of Tokyo, causing chaos and disrupting traffic. Meanwhile, amidst the escalating tensions, reports indicate that there has been no major damage thus far. The Awakener Federation's criminal task force has arrived on the scene, joined by the world's number 15 and Lieutenant Sei's Tokyo team, one en route. Additionally, news arrives that the Type 10 Tank Battalion and Unmanned Air Drone Battalion are heading toward the Tokyo site, with footage confirming their deployment. In the Japan Ministry of Defense Situation Room, a tense atmosphere prevails as reports come in. A senior officer updates the situation. Tank Battalion Team 1 ready. Combat Drone Battalion ready. Combat Satellite Targeting locked. Meanwhile, second in command of the Awakener Federation, reporting to Minister of Defense Kurosawa, notes that Park Suho is someone they've been attempting to recruit. They observe cautiously as Sei, a prominent figure, reaches Park Suho with an official declaration. Saseki informs Park Suho that he is under arrest for illegal entry, causing social chaos, fear-mongering, and other public order violations. Politely identifying himself as Seki Kazuhiro from the police department, Saseki requests Park Suho to disembark from the Wyvern peacefully. However, tensions quickly escalate when Park Suho refuses to comply, growing frustrated with the accusation. In a swift motion, Saseki attempts to restrain him with magic, warning him not to resist. Park Suho retaliates forcefully, delivering a solid punch that sends Saseki flying. Unfazed, Park Suho asserts his determination to defend his territory at any cost, acknowledging his fear, but praising Saseki's strength. Saseki admits that Park Suho's reaction could have been fatal had he not reacted swiftly with a protective spell. Despite the clash, Saseki persists in his demand for Lee Sulu to surrender, warning against sending any more minions into the fray. Meanwhile, Kurosawa watched the live feed from his office with fascination. He remarked aloud that Park Suho was even more impressive than he had anticipated, considering him to be a potentially more valuable asset than Lee Sungwoo. Kurosawa mentioned that Park Suho had previously extended an invitation to them. They planned to reschedule their meeting as soon as air travel became safe again. In the midst of the crisis, Park Suho declared through the live broadcast that unless they brought Lee Sungwoo out, would burn everything within a 1-kilometer radius. The tension escalated in the Situation Room as operators discussed the citizens' safety and debated using satellites to eliminate the threat posed by the Dragon Knight. Hirosawa, observing the unfolding drama, commented that things were just getting interesting. He turned to Dio, noting his nervousness, and inquired about their next steps. Dio responded that Lieutenant Masi was preparing to intervene. After a while, Lieutenant Masi arrived at the scene where Park Suho was making his demands. He calmly suggested to Suho that it would be in everyone's best interest to cease his actions. Suho, unmoved, reiterated his demand for Lee Sungwoo within 30 minutes. Massey explained that Lee was currently raiding a level 7 dungeon and couldn't be brought out immediately. Suho grew increasingly agitated, questioning why it would take 10 days for Lee to emerge from the dungeon. Provoked, Suho declared he would return later and ensure accountability for the day's events. He accused them of stealing the youth or eggs of a Nyx, a serious accusation among awakened beings. With that, Suho mounted his wyvern and flew off. Elsewhere, Dio asserted that they couldn't simply allow Park Suho to act with impunity, as it would lead to international humiliation. Hirasawa agreed, but argued that deploying the full force of the defense army against a single awakener would be equally humiliating. He proposed a different approach. Since Suho had indicated he would return, they should request Arumakis to escort him to the air defense identification zone using FF-35S. Meanwhile, Park Suho's attention is drawn to a mysterious black portal, wondering if it might be a gateway to the planet Kshen on the other side. In Suho's homeland, jubilation erupts upon hearing the news of Park Suho declaring war against Hiro. Media reports highlight Lieutenant Saseki's incapacitation from a single strike during an attempted arrest, now hospitalized with a concussion. The Japanese government categorizes the incident as an attack and threat against Japan, demanding Park Suho's extradition or threatening war with Korea. In response, ministers convene for an emergency meeting. They remain undecided on their official stance. Gu bursts into the room with excitement upon seeing his uncle Park Suho, inquiring about his father and uncles, who were apparently drinking while watching TV in the office. His sudden appearance startles them, and they hastily flee. Meanwhile, tensions rise in the emergency meeting of ministers, where heated arguments ensue, dividing opinions between supporting Hiro and Park Suho. The South Korean president arrives and questions the connection between Hiro and Park Suho. The Assistant Secretary of State confirms there's no known relationship between them, prompting the president to question Hiro's motives for initiating the conflict. The president hears speculation from the Awakened Bureau director, suggesting jealousy over Park Suho's rapid rise to fame abroad might be a factor. Turning to the Minister of National Defense, the president queries their military readiness against Japan. The minister acknowledges that a decade ago, they might have had a chance, but now, with a larger budget, they could prepare within 10 years. However, the Awakened Bureau director intervenes, asserting a different theory. It's their government's ploy to scout Park Suho. The president considers this perspective, realizing that the threat of war could be a bargaining tactic. Given the current strain on both countries from handling dungeon breaches, a full-scale war seems improbable. The implication that countries were eager to recruit Park Suho intrigued the president, who questioned his power compared to a planet Ruri like Lee Sungwoo. The director explained that Park Suho was unique, not just in strength, but in possessing skills unlike anyone else. He elaborated that what made Park Suho so coveted worldwide were his unique abilities, particularly his mastery of elemental magic, a skill traditionally exclusive to the high elves of planet Aruka. The president sought specifics on these skills that made Park Suho so sought after. He learned that Park Suho was on his way to mastering elemental magic, including area of effect spells, a rarity even among those who had studied Aruka's teachings. The director likened Park Suho to a lucrative lottery ticket, potentially bringing immense wealth and strategic advantage to any nation that secured his allegiance. Agreeing that such potential warranted protection, the president instructed the Minister of Justice to designate Park Suho as a VIP and prevent him from leaving the country. Meanwhile, news reports confirmed the government's refusal of Japan's extradition request for Park Suho. In a car, Kim Miso and the director discussed the decision, with Kim Miso suggesting that money had influenced the outcome. The director questioned her cynicism, hinting that he had intervened to prevent Park Suho's deportation. He directed Kim Miso to convey to Park Suho their plans to level up the Suho Guild to level 6 soon, and expand their farmlands to cover all of the Jonki regions. This, he believed, would position Korea as the world's granary, surpassing even Era. Kim Miso mentioned they had also agreed to meet Mr. Max on Suho's land the following day. Meanwhile, deep within SE Area 2's Grasshopper Dungeon Level 3, Park Suho puts his 4 trainees through rigorous training sessions, pushing them to their limits. Sweating and struggling, they endure as Park Suho informs them they still have 10 rounds to go. His focus is interrupted by a call from Granny Swaka. Concerned, she asks if he's allowing the trainees to eat while training. Park Suho reassures her that they had a substantial meal earlier and don't need to eat at the moment. Granny Swaka passes the phone to Miss Miso, who gets straight to the point. She mentions the intense training Park Suho has undertaken in the dungeon, without rest, since returning to Korea 3 days ago. He brings up Japan's strong reaction to recent events and hints at a potential solution. Reflecting privately, Park Suho contemplates the complexities of human rules and their consequences. He agrees to meet Kim Miso at home. Later, Park Suho arrives and meets Mr. Max, the Asian branch manager of SPFC. Curious about SPFC's interest, Park Soo-ho asks directly what they want from him. Mr. Max explains that recently, Champion Hyro publicly challenged Park Soo-ho to a match, dismissing him as inconsequential and boasting he could win with one hand tied. Park Soo-ho vaguely recalls the challenge but wonders about Hiro's motives. Mr. Max elaborates that the match could generate an astronomical amount of money, suggesting it as a means to prevent war and earn a substantial sum simultaneously. He advises Park Soo-ho not to overthink it and simply agree. Mr. Max emphasizes the financial benefits and the opportunity to diffuse tensions diplomatically. Park Soo-ho reflects on David's warning about Hiro's dangerous reputation as a psychopathic murderer, cautioning him against any dealings with him. As the weight of the decision hangs in the air, Park Soo-ho considers the potential consequences of accepting the challenge, both personally and politically. The allure of financial gain and diplomatic resolution battles against his instincts to avoid entanglements with someone as unpredictable as Hiro. The president, discussing with his team, mentioned that legally he can kill Hiro if he agrees, requesting a clear explanation of the SPFC rules and emphasizing that they won't hold him accountable for any accidental deaths, although they do not condone murder. Kim Miso assured Mr. Max that she would discuss these terms with Park Soo-ho and contact him again soon. Mr. Max expressed his hope that they would make the correct choice. Kim Miso reassured Park Soo-ho that agreeing to the match was his choice and that war would not break out over this issue. However, Park Soo-ho expressed a strong desire to proceed. Kim Miso pointed out Japan's straightforward intentions, either appease him or eliminate him. Park Soo-ho asserted that he didn't care about Japan's reasons. He simply wanted to defeat Hiro, especially since it wasn't against the law. She then proposed the idea of donating the proceeds from the match to Japan, emphasizing the importance of appeasing them before the match. Park Soo-ho agreed to this suggestion. Kim Miso informed Mr. Max of their decision. Turning to another matter, Kim Miso produced documents revealing an official order from the government. She handed Park Soo-ho a document announcing a general assembly of all level 6 guilds annually, where large guilds gather. She expressed her intention to invite Park Soo-ho to this event. Park Soo-ho questioned why he was being invited when his guild hadn't yet reached level 6. Kim Miso disclosed that the Suho Guild had officially achieved level 6 status and presented him with a level 6 shield as certification from the Bureau. She explained that this conferred autonomous rights over the entire Uijeongbu region, including territorial management. Furthermore, Kim Miso elaborated that once infrastructure was established and people began settling, the government would designate all managed land under their control. Park Junho, upon seeing the document, questioned why they were being entrusted with land they had previously relinquished and tasked with guarding the country. The monk chimed in, noting their lack of military training and questioning their ability to fulfill such a responsibility. Park Soo-ho responded that the decision had been made, emphasizing that the government's priority was to establish the city first. He speculated that they might be exploited by the government for their newfound responsibilities. Adding to the discussion, Park Soo-ho contemplates that expanding the beast's farm might be more lucrative than the current offer on the table. Dong-soo interjects, suggesting that accepting the substantial sum of money and immigrating elsewhere could be 100 times better, proposes keeping Namyangju as their headquarters, and reveals his plan to divide the new region into sub-districts. Dong-soo questions if they will become branch managers with powers akin to mayors, but Soo-ho envisions a larger role. He sees himself more as a provincial governor than a mere mayor of Area 13, asserting that he will appoint branch managers, likening them to lords and castellans rather than traditional mayors or governors. Meanwhile, the monk, observing the news, notes the agricultural potential of Suho land, predicting Korea could become the world's grain hub, leading to significant income. However, he raises concerns about Era's agricultural dominance with multiple trading gates globally and high-cost products. He suggests targeting a niche market where Suho land can thrive. Highlighting the stakes, he emphasizes that if their venture succeeds, Suho will become a lord with a territory generating substantial income, and they will act as castellans safeguarding that land. Reminding them of the signed contract, he advises keeping duplicate copies to prevent future disputes. He asserts that decisions have been made, pointing out their inability to protect their own homes challenges the notion of becoming castellans. Concluding the discussion, he urges them to finish their meal and proceed with today's training regimen, focusing on preparing themselves for the challenges ahead in this new chapter of their lives. Meanwhile, Park Junho watched the news, eagerly reporting Lee Sung-woo's emergence from the dungeon. He exclaimed with enthusiasm, "Welcome back. He's in trouble now." An event was promptly organized, setting up a highly anticipated match between Lee and Park Soo-ho. Bright, commenting on the upcoming one-on-one battle between Awakeners, noted that it was a completely different challenge from hunting in confined spaces. He predicted that Lee, with his extensive experience, would likely triumph over Park Suho. Meanwhile, an SPFC commentator emphasized that Park Suho lacked prior experience in such high-profile one-on-one combat and hinted at the stark differences between the SPFC arena and street fights. Back at their base, Dong-soo checked the Suho channel and read excited comments from viewers anticipating the match. Initially upbeat about the potential earnings, his mood soured upon discovering that Park Suho had donated the entire 240 billion fight money to Japan. Frustrated, Dong-soo questioned why Park Suho would give away hard-earned money to another country. As they discussed the matter, Park Suho suddenly arrived, questioning their activities and expressing his concern over the risks he faced. He urged them to finish their meal quickly and head indoors, as he intended to inspect the land in Uijeongbu. The scene then shifted to the Awakeners Bureau Director, seen having a phone conversation with the president. The director acknowledged that the reported amount of fight money had been reduced and reassured the president that distributing 5 billion to each recipient would suffice. As a precaution, they had also secured a contract where Park Suho agreed to donate his winnings to the National Development Funds. With this arrangement, the director explained, they could suppress any speculation about internal conflicts within the country. He praised Park Suho for his generosity and suggested that this act was just the beginning. He anticipated that the success of the agricultural project on Suho land would bring even greater benefits in the future. Meanwhile, Park Suho arrives on his wyvern at the facility that once housed the headquarters of the Third Corps, currently in the midst of relocation. Surveying the area, he envisions expanding and renovating it to accommodate approximately 1,000 people. Kim is already there to greet him, asking for his assessment from above. Park Suho finds the location suitable and suggests planting within a 4-kilometer radius, which Kim notes for submission and approval. Using his tree spirit power, Park Suho marks his territory, setting the boundaries for his future domain. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, a reporter addresses martial arts fans on the Worldwide Martial Arts channel. He announces the countdown to the Battle of the Century, featuring champion Liu against rookie Park Suho. The Sidekick channel team has prepared footage from an earlier interview with both competitors. Strategically positioned in front of the Level 7 dungeon in Osaka, they approach Lee first. The reporter asks how he's preparing for the upcoming match against Park Suho. Liu dismisses the need for specific preparations, citing the imminent increase in Level 7 dungeons and the pressing need to act for humanity's peace. Turning to Park Suho's team, including the members, the reporter introduces himself as a sidekick and requests an interview. He inquires about Park Suho and the Sidekick channel's interest in featuring him. Kongu suggests checking Uijeongbu, speculating that Park Suho is likely engaged in his tree planting activities at the moment. Meanwhile, Akiko sat in her hotel room at Junior Hotel, diligently attempting to gain access to Park Suho's profile. After some time, she successfully breached the security measures. At the same time, news reports announced that DGB Construction had begun transporting building materials to Uijeongbu for construction on Suho land. With only 2 days left until the match, Park Suho remained secluded within his land and had not yet arrived in Japan. On the other side of Tokyo, Akiko sat with Lee Sung-woo in the Tokyo Top City Hotel. Curious about his thoughts, she asked him how he planned to deal with Park Suho if he didn't show up for the match. Lee Sung-woo pondered the question, considering the implications. Akiko expressed her doubts about it being an easy challenge. She then disclosed top-secret information she had accessed from Korea's Awakeners Bureau, revealing records about Park Suho's history. According to these records, Park Suho had returned after spending 1,000 years on another planet. Lee Sung-woo, aka Hero, questioned if Park Suho had used a regression stone multiple times over 1,000 years. Akiko clarified that she didn't believe Park Suho used a regression stone like Lee Sung-woo did. Lee Sung-woo insisted that it was impossible to live for 1,000 years without using a regression stone. Akiko then explained that, according to the records, Park Suho had actually spent 10 years on another planet where time passed twice as fast as on Earth. She speculated that if Park Suho had spent 500 years regressing on Earth, then spending 1,000 years on a planet with a different temporal flow was plausible. He further suggested that this discrepancy in time flow might explain why Lee Sung-woo had never encountered Park Suho despite his own lengthy regressions. Lee Sung-woo wondered if, in the absence of a regression stone, Park Suho had found an alternative method to extend his life, perhaps something akin to drinking from the fountain of eternal youth. Akiko then shared her research findings, mentioning a rare item known as the Crimson Divine Peach. This fruit was said to appear only once every 1,000 years on a particular planet and vanish after 10 days. It was considered a divine fruit capable of granting eternal youth and immortality to whoever consumed it. Expressing her concern, Akiko speculated that Park Suho might have indeed lived longer than Lee Sung-woo due to such extraordinary means. On the other side, Park Suho asserts that he won't allow anyone to obstruct his plans declaring his determination against any opponent. Meanwhile, a commentator reports from the buzzing stadium 3 hours before the match. Speculation swirls as Park Soo-ho has yet to arrive in the country, leading to questions about his commitment to the match. The commentator joins in, stressing that even for an event match, facing SPFC's champion shouldn't be taken lightly, especially for a rookie like Park Soo-ho. The responsibility for the pre-match inspection rests on the Korean government, prompting calls for both Park Soo-ho and the government to issue apologies if he fails to show up. Across the arena, Hiro asks Akiko if there's any news on Park Soo-ho's whereabouts. Akiko responds with news from Korea that Soo-ho Land has expanded to Uijeong. Hiro marvels at Park Soo-ho's foresight, noting that Uijeongbu is where the first level 7 dungeon appeared in Korea. He recalls the disastrous attempt by the combat unit to challenge the dungeon, resulting in half of Korea's S-rank awakeners lost, and Uijeongbu devastated by explosives used against level 7 monsters. Hiro fears an imminent wave of dungeon breaks sweeping across the continent from North to South Korea, potentially leading to South Korea's collapse. He understands the Korean government is pushing Park Soo-ho forward to prevent this grim outcome. Back at the stadium, the commentator announces only 7 minutes remain before the match begins. According to the rules, players must arrive at least an hour before the match or face disqualification. Uncertainty looms over whether Park Soo-ho will make it in time. Suddenly, the sound of a wyvern pierces the air, surprising everyone as Park Soo-ho arrives dramatically at Tokyo Stadium on his wyvern. The commentator exclaims that Park Soo-ho has defied expectations by appearing just in time, igniting excitement among the audience. Park Soo-ho lands and dismisses his wyvern through a portal, scanning the large crowd and inquiring about Hiro's whereabouts. The commentator informs him that Hiro is reportedly somewhere in the arena, prompting Park Soo-ho to call out his opponent's name. The spectators erupt into cheers and anticipation as the tension mounts for the epic confrontation about to unfold. Meanwhile, Lee Sung-woo was in a room with Akiko, preparing himself for the upcoming match. He informed her that he was heading out and reassured her not to worry, confidently stating that he would win and return safely. At the arena, Lee Sung-woo confronted Park Soo-ho, asking if he would allow him to ask a few questions before their battle. He first inquired if Park Soo-ho was a survivor of the apocalypse, to which Park Soo-ho responded with confusion, asking what the apocalypse was. Lee Sung-woo pressed on, questioning if there was another regression stone and how many years Park Soo-ho could regress with the one he possessed. He further probed about the nature of a regression stone. The commentator, recognizing the significance of their conversation, sent a transmission drone nearby to capture their dialogue. Lee Sung-woo taunted Park Soo-ho, suggesting that he must be enjoying returning to the past, feeling like he had the world at his feet again. Attempting to provoke Park Soo-ho further, Lee Sung-woo moved to attack, but Park Soo-ho swiftly retaliated by striking him in the face and throwing him aside. The sudden turn of events shocked everyone in the stadium and those watching the live broadcast. The commentator remarked that Lee Sung-woo appeared to have sustained significant damage and wasn't responding immediately. Park Soo-ho approached slowly, placing Lee Sung-woo in a precarious situation. He instructed Lee Sung-woo to get up, questioning how someone with the title of champion could be so weak. Lee Sung-woo managed to rise to his feet, his nose bleeding, and wondered if he had been struck by magic. Park Soo-ho commented on the necessity of humility, using a proverb about ants having queens and frogs in wells. Lee Sung-woo attempted another attack out of frustration, but Park Soo-ho effortlessly countered, employing tornado power to launch Lee Sung-woo into the air. He followed up with a shower of fire fairies. The commentator, witnessing this one-sided beating, expressed disbelief at the unexpected turn of events, reflecting the shock among the spectators. Park Soo-ho firmly grasped Lee Sung-woo by the neck, insisting that he not feign death because he knew Lee Sung-woo was still conscious. The status window displayed Lee Sung-woo's HP at 25%. Park Soo-ho decided to inquire further, asking Lee Sung-woo why he sought him out. Lee Sung-woo responded bluntly that he wanted to kill Park Soo-ho. Park Soo-ho pressed on, questioning why Lee Sung-woo believed he deserved to die. Lee Sung-woo asserted that it was because of Park Soo-ho that his meticulously crafted plan, developed over 500 years of hard work and dedication, had been ruined. Park Soo-ho was intrigued and asked Lee Sung-woo about this plan he had been working on for centuries. In response, Lee Sung-woo consumed a potion, transforming into the monstrous entity known as the Fury of God. Meanwhile, a man watches the events unfolding in the stadium on the screen, reflecting on the potion he took to recover his stamina. He notes that it seems he's learned some intriguing insights from planet Gushion. Suddenly, Hiro transforms, unleashing the devastating power of his god's fury. The stadium is ravaged, with spectators badly injured, and even some people taking a hit. Hiro employs a skill so lethal and powerful that it strains the limits of human endurance, forcing him to tap into the resilience of a monster's physique. Astoundingly, Hiro utilizes a skill he had reserved for a level 8 boss, the Toad Monarch, against a human opponent. Park Suho, despite sustaining head injuries, manages to rise again, expressing astonishment at surviving such an ultimate attack. Queries Hiro about the item enhancing his strength and the technique used to unleash such power. Hiro clarifies that there's no item involved. Instead, it's a skill known as Forest Blessing. He dismisses the notion of regression, explaining that Forest Blessing is an elixir-grade skill capable of completely restoring lost stamina and mana within a mere 5 seconds. Hiro emphasizes the potency of this skill, asserting its equivalence to an elixir in its rejuvenating effects. Meanwhile, amidst the intense battle, Park Suho launched a fierce attack on Lee Sungwoo, hurling him aside with a powerful strike. He remarked that it seemed the planet might face destruction because of Lee Sungwoo's actions. Lee Sungwoo retorted, asserting that his meticulously planned 500-year strategy had been disrupted by Park Suho, thereby attributing the planet's potential demise to him. He vowed that Park Suho should meet his end by his hands, questioning if Park Suho comprehended how he had brought them to this critical juncture. With a swift kick and a forceful throw, Park Suho asserted that Lee Sungwoo was simply deluded. Despite Lee Sungwoo's monstrous transformation, Park Suho found it remarkable that there existed a human he couldn't defeat. Nevertheless, he showed no concern for the prospect of defeat and continued to pummel his opponent mercilessly. Throughout the onslaught, Park Suho reiterated that he wasn't responsible for the ruin of Lee Sungwoo's plan. Park Suho resolved to enlighten Lee Sungwoo about reality, intending to extract all of his adversary's knowledge and power in the ensuing battle. He proclaimed that he, as the world's savior, must prevail. Transforming himself into a black wolf, Park Suho delivered a powerful punch that reverted Lee Sungwoo back to his human form, shattering his stone replica in the process. Transforming again, this time into an eagle, Park Suho approached Lee Sungwoo, questioning his thoughts and asking if he could now perceive the real world. He warned Lee Sungwoo that his inability to save Earth over centuries was due to his own weakness. Park Suho issued a stern warning, advising Lee Sungwoo never to trespass into his territory again, threatening to end his life if he did. He emphasized the impending apocalypse, predicting that 95% of humankind would perish, including Lee Sungwoo, if they didn't change their ways soon. His adversary retorts, questioning why his past should dictate his future. Privately, he reflects that there seems to be no future for someone like him who remains mired in the past. Meanwhile, Choi Soo-young watches a match unfold. The commentator notes how Park Suho, transformed into an eagle, flies towards Hiro, who has collapsed. She recalls the hospital incident where Park Suho told her they couldn't be together because of her perceived weakness. She contemplates the delicate balance of strengths in relationships, fearing that imbalances lead to inevitable fractures. On the other side, Park Suho secures victory in the match and selflessly donates all winnings to Japan. The families of the injured collectively file lawsuits against Hiro, who remains unconscious for a week. During this time, Hiro experiences a haunting dream where Park Suho warns him. Abruptly waking, he questions how much time has passed, reaching for his phone to check the news. However, Akiko arrives and swiftly takes his phone away, warning him not to expose himself to public reactions. Still reeling from his defeat, she checks on his well-being, to which he responds with a desire for solitude. Akiko acquiesces, emphasizing the need for stability. Hiro rises from his bed and gazes out the window, observing protests brewing outside the hospital. He muses bitterly on the fickleness of those who once idolized him, despite his unwavering dedication to them. Turning his attention to the stone of replica, he laments missed opportunities, convinced that if he had held out a bit longer, he could have replicated everything. His thoughts then turn to the regression stone, explaining its ability to transport him back 20 years to Earth. Contemplating his next move, he resolves that his only option now is to go back in time and eliminate Park Suho. He mentions the possibility of upgrading the regression stone to level 3, estimating activation in about 2 years. Meanwhile, Nobusuke and his friends enter Hiro's room, checking on him to see if he's awake and all right. They inform him that they've been ordered by the Bureau to bring him along. Hiro expresses surprise, stating he received no prior notice. Tahiro and Ui explain they were also summoned and coincidentally met on the way. Hiro reflects on how all the S-rank awakeners in Tokyo have gathered at the Bureau's summons. He instructs Nobusuke and the others to wait outside while he prepares himself. Reluctantly, they agree, urging him to come along quietly. Shimizu and Rokudo stand guard outside the door, prompting Hiro to scoff at the idea that just the 5 of them could defeat him. Nobusuke reassures him it's a simple investigation, and he only needs to cooperate briefly. Hiro considers that the defense agency likely recorded his entire conversation with Park Suho on the day of the match and speculates they are curious about the items in his inventory. He questions if they also covet the regression stone, wondering if they plan to imprison and torture him for it. Nobusuke clarifies it's due to missing items from reports, and Toshihiro suggests using such items for the citizens' benefit. Infuriated by their suggestions, Hiro declares they've crossed a line and warns Japan will face consequences for their actions today. Suddenly, they launch an attack on him, but Hiro activates the Fury of God, countering their assaults effortlessly. He challenges them, asserting his strength despite his recent defeat, and threatens Toshihiro with dire consequences if they persist. They plead for him to stop, but Hiro insists on knowing who gave the order. Eventually, he learns it was Commissioner Takeo of the Supernatural Bureau. Hiro reflects on Takeo's staunch patriotism and preference for bloodlines, likely uncomfortable with his cooperation due to his opposition to Korea. He believes Takeo had been waiting for an opportunity to act upon his failure, questioning his loyalty to Japan. Takeo's decision stems from Hiro's team raiding level 7 dungeons, resulting in 9 deaths. Hiro contemplates the gravity of the situation as tensions rise between him and the Bureau, preparing for the challenging confrontation ahead. Park Suho questioned whether Lee Sungwoo had ever transformed into a monster or used an elixir to heal his team, noting that the skills and items displayed during their battle had never been documented anywhere. He suggested that all reports submitted by Combat Team 1 of the Defense Agency might be false, implying that Lee Sungwoo hid items meant for national defense for personal gain. Park Suho proposed a cautious approach before initiating a special investigation committee, recommending they first ask Lee Sungwoo questions to dispel doubts, not because they didn't trust him, but to clarify the situation. He accused Takeo of possibly wanting to take all the items Lee Sungwoo possessed for himself, and insinuated that Takeo might have promised him the position of captain of Japan's Combat Team 1 if things went smoothly. Lee Sungwoo defended himself, asserting that his loyalty to the defense agency had never been in question, especially since his previous service in the Navy. He revealed his motivation to witness the destruction of Japan 25 times and to rebuild human civilization there, due to its geographical advantages. However, he lamented that these plans were now in ruins due to what he perceived as the insatiable greed of the country. Inquiring about Akiko's awareness of these events, Park Suho was informed that she was indeed knowledgeable about them. In a fit of anger, he killed Toshiro, a member of Combat Team 1. The news subsequently reported that Lee Sungwoo had killed 2 Awakeners and injured 3 others before making his escape. Meanwhile, in Japan's Supernatural Bureau, Commissioner Takeo expresses his deep-seated distrust, particularly in helping outsiders, citing the recent incident involving Lee Suo. He voices his belief that they took in a man abandoned by Korea and elevated him to hero status, only for him to betray them at the first opportunity. Takeo suspects that Lee Suo may have been a spy planted by Korea from the very beginning. Takeo sees this betrayal as a significant threat to national security and views the incident as an opportunity to purge any potential threats within their borders. He resolves to replace those deemed unreliable with individuals of pure Japanese descent, whom he views as more trustworthy heroes. In response to this crisis, Takeo instructs Katano to immediately contact all broadcasting stations and the press. He orders a briefing about Lee to be convened in the conference room within the next 2 hours. The media swiftly picks up on the directive, spreading the news of Park Suho's rise as the world's strongest individual in his new territory. The Suo Guild experiences a surge in membership, and anticipation builds as Uijong prepares to become Seoul's 13th district. Meanwhile, Dong-soo watched intently as a news report unfolded before him. It detailed champion heroes' daring escape after committing murder, followed by the disappearance and subsequent killing of 2 S-rank Awakeners. The broadcast grew even more alarming as it revealed Mr. Takeo from Japan's Awakened Federation, calling for an emergency press conference at the government office. Mr. Takeo openly voiced suspicions that Lee Sungwoo might be a spy sent by Korea, demanding urgent explanations from the Korean government regarding the recent terrorist activities linked to Lee Sun-woo. In swift response, a spokesperson from the Blue House held a briefing at the archives, vehemently rejecting Commissioner Takeo's allegations as unfounded and expressing deep resentment towards Japan's perceived provocation. Dong-soo mulled over the news, skeptical that someone as severely beaten by Suho as hero would dare to approach their location again. He made a decision. He would search for Suho, especially since Suho had been absent during crucial moments before. After a while, Dong-su noticed something familiar in the sky. A new member of the Suho guild screamed and bolted from the side, signaling that Hiro might indeed have arrived. Dong-su wasted no time and began running towards the commotion. Just then, Jaishik appeared and questioned their sudden rush. Dong-su explained his suspicion that Hiro had arrived, having received a report from the detection team about a nearby portal. They hurriedly moved towards the scene where a new portal was opening, its energy signature indicating it was a level 7 dungeon with dimension energy, measuring a staggering 7,530, with a potential break in just 42 days. The gravity of the situation hit them hard. Park Junho voiced concern over admitting individuals to their guild without fully assessing their capabilities, fearing the catastrophic consequences if the dungeon were to break open. Uncertainty loomed over their next steps. Myungjin suggested relocating before the dungeon's potential breach, but Park Junho hesitated, unsure if Suho would allow them to leave. The absence of Suho during such a critical moment puzzled Jang Jaishik, prompting them to decide to split up and search for Suho in different directions before making any further decisions. As tensions mounted, a weasel suddenly materialized in the center of their group, questioning their motives for being there. Park Junho, feeling the weight of their ambition to become the 13th District Branch managers, candidly admitted that they were driven by their desire for prestige. The weasel acknowledged their honesty, explaining they were chosen by the government for this larger hunting ground and encouraged them to embrace the wilderness. Highlighting a significant opportunity, the weasel asked if they were willing to hunt with gratitude. Handong expressed gratitude but pointed out their current E-rank levels. Unperturbed, the weasel countered that their prey practically offered itself to be caught, warning that running away would only return them to their pasts. He challenged their resolve, questioning if they desired to regress, which they vehemently denied, reaffirming their dedication to progress. Deciding to move forward, the group suddenly witnessed the weasel transform into Park Suho himself. Impressed by the newcomer's improvement, Park Suho stressed the importance of managing construction efforts. He designated 2 people for the first raid, instructing them to follow closely. Dong-su, feeling regretful about missing out on the opportunity to join the first raid of a level 7 dungeon in Korea, resolved to participate this time. They entered the level 7 dungeon, encountering an undeveloped land fraught with attacks. Meanwhile, news broadcasts reported that following the recent events in Japan, a level S dungeon had finally emerged in Korea. This marked the 8th level S dungeon globally and the 2nd in Asia. Major foreign media outlets anticipated this development, causing chaos at the international airport as people sought to escape. The Awakened Bureau convened a meeting to strategize their response amidst the escalating crisis. The reporter concluded the news flash by confirming that a team of 3 from Suho Land, including Park Suho himself, had already entered the dungeon, poised to confront the challenges within. Meanwhile, at the Awakened Bureau, the director acknowledged the exceptional performance of broadcasting stations, likening it to having a listening device within their own building, questioned whether they promptly reported the appearance of the dungeon, and noted that Park Suho, Dong-su, and Jang Jaishik were currently inside. A gray-haired individual inquired why those 2 were brought along, to which the bespectacled one explained Dong-su's unique video memory skill. The director suggested creating a video recording for subsequent teams. The bespectacled one countered that there were already numerous videos online of foreign teams clearing level 7 dungeons. The discussion shifted to the combat team's readiness, with the gray-haired individual reporting that all 13 teams within the Bureau were on standby. However, the majority were B-rank awakeners, with only a few A ranks available. Another person added that time was pressing, as they needed to clear the dungeon 88 times within 42 days to prevent its collapse. The bespectacled one checked data on a tablet, mentioning Lee Sungwoo's team had set a record of 8 days inside the dungeon, equivalent to 20 Earth days due to the time dilation. This meant they needed to clear it twice a day on average. Considering the dire situation, a gray-haired individual suggested evacuating the country. The bespectacled one proposed reaching out to guilds for cooperation, fortifying the So defense wall in preparation for the dungeon's collapse. The director expressed concern that if a second level 7 dungeon appeared within Seoul, everyone would be at risk. He questioned the strength of Suho Guild's wall of trees, pointing out that even if monsters could be confined behind it, subsequent dungeons would pose an insurmountable challenge. The director concluded that as long as the level 7 dungeon in Suho Land was managed, it would be the safest place on the planet. He asked if Section Chief Kim Miso was present at Suho Land and suggested they call her to assess the situation on site. After a while, they observed Suho Land with a drone to locate Kim Miso. They commented that it was quieter than expected and noted that construction was still underway. DGB construction was visibly involved in infrastructure development, while workers appeared peaceful, some even engaging in activities like a child riding a wolf, prompting them to wonder if it was some kind of war game, or if they were still in Korea, as it seemed like another world entirely. The director questioned if the drone had indeed reached Suho land in Uijeonggu and confirmed Kim Miso's location through it. He observed her sunbathing near what looked like the soldiers' dormitory building, approached her. Upon his greeting, she promptly asked who he was, to which the director identified himself and asked if she was Choi Seong. Kim Miso clarified that it was lunchtime and apologized for any inconvenience, prompting the director to ask for a brief update on the situation on site. Kim Miso explained that initially, there was some unrest when the Level S dungeon first appeared, mainly due to the evacuation procedures. However, after Park Suho's team ventured into the dungeon for a raid, the situation had stabilized. She reported that 3 hours after the dungeon's emergence, infrastructure construction was proceeding as planned. Park Junho, the vice guild master of Suho Guild, was overseeing operations, while Monk Myungjin from the guild was involved in training recruits. Satisfied with the report, the director pondered aloud that while the entire country of Korea seemed to be in a panic, Suho land felt like an entirely different world. Just then, General Manager Choi entered the room and informed them that the Ministry of Defense had deployed Sun Jin-woo's 77A Special Forces unit to Uijeonggu. The director approved of this decision, emphasizing the importance of preventing a dungeon break at all costs. He expressed confidence in Park Suho's abilities and declared that he would now assume the role of on-site commander for the Level S dungeon. The scene shifts abruptly to a darkened room where Akiko, tied to a chair, is startled as Commissioner Takeo enters and asks if she's awake. With defiance, she retorts that he's mistaken, but Takeo presses on, threatening her with electrocution and displaying her bracelet, a significant find since she rarely wears it and had hidden it well. Curious, she asks how he obtained it. Takeo smirks, stating they've already thoroughly examined its contents. Demanding to know their intentions, Akiko dismisses the bracelet as a mere diary, but Takeo reveals it contains detailed predictions of the future, outlining who will rise as heroes or villains, predicting incidents and even foreseeing the world's end. He explains how he used this foresight to gather individuals of great potential, molding them into a team that elevated him to champion status and earned him hero worship across Japan. Takeo credits this success to a regression stone he possesses. Cutting through the tension, Akiko asks if this is what Takeo wants from her. He presses her to disclose Lee Su's whereabouts, promising to fulfill her desires in return. Claiming ignorance, Akiko insists she doesn't know. Watching through a glass wall, a figure confirms her truthfulness to Takeo's disappointment. Despite this setback, Takeo comments bitterly on their unwitting creation of Lee Su as an enemy. Takeo pronounces Akiko's fate, a lifetime in the awakened exclusive prison with a grim end awaiting her. Unfazed, Akiko suggests Takeo doesn't have time to concern himself with her fate, hinting that Lee Su will likely seek him out soon. Moments later, an operator shows Takeo a video of Lee Su, stating it's the last known footage as he has gone underground. He stated that they were currently tracking him down with drones, emphasizing that Hero was a villain attempting to overthrow them by luring Korean awakeners and citizens to his country. He urged using all possible means to locate him and hold him accountable for his crimes, convinced that Hero certainly possessed a regression stone in his inventory. Meanwhile, on a beach, Hero sat watching the news on his phone. The broadcast revealed the list of guild members who had joined Park Suho in his raid of the Level 7 dungeon. He noted it was a 3-man team with Jang Jae-shik at D rank and Dong Su at I rank. Musing about how much Park Suho could change the world with his strength, he made notes in a notebook, planning to gather more information about Park Suho for his next regression. The news further reported that Korea's best combat team, Special Forces Unit 77A, was en route to Uijeonggu. Hero commented on Korea's destruction starting in earnest after the annihilation of the combat team led by Korea's top-ranked awakener. Despite the appearance of a Level 7 dungeon, Buos remained peaceful. He grimly reflected that when the end of the world arrived, those bright faces would be stained with blood and tears, resolving that if he survived, it would help them smile again. Meanwhile, members of F-Unit 77A arrived at the Suho Guild. The director also arrived, meeting Park Junho and Kim Miso. Kim Miso questioned why he was there, to which he replied, expressing his inability to sit calmly in the office while the country faced a crisis. He informed Park Junho that the Awakened Bureau and the Ministry of Defense had decided to fully support the Suho Guild in response to ease citizen anxiety. Park Junho expressed Park Suho's disapproval of outsiders entering their territory under such circumstances. The director acknowledged this, but stressed that the Level 7 dungeon's appearance constituted a national crisis, not solely the Suho Guild's responsibility. She assured Kim Miso that she would do her best to explain the situation to Park Suho when he emerged, and confirmed their willingness to compensate appropriately for using the dungeon. After a while, Kim Miso found herself alone with the director, questioning his presence. He bristled at her inquiry, asserting that the director of the bureau should not remain inactive during such a national crisis. Kim Miso speculated whether he had chosen this location because it seemed safest, to which he challenged her perception and ordered her to stop the nonsensical talk, insisting they establish his command post immediately. He directed that all available aces, including Choi Soo-young from the detection team, be transferred to join them, emphasizing Soo-young should already be in the barracks. Turning to another matter, he queried about the defensive wall of trees in the area, questioning its invulnerability even to missiles. Kim Miso admitted uncertainty, suggesting he tested himself. Meanwhile, Sun Jinu approached Park Junho, advising against causing any difficulties for the director. Jinu proposed establishing their post in that location if the director permitted, noting the director's actions seemed motivated by patriotism rather than avoiding trouble. He concluded, "Let him do as he wishes," requested they ensure soldiers' and civilians' paths did not intersect, given the soldiers' heightened sensitivity due to the impending raid. Elsewhere, a robust soldier finished his meal, remarking cynically that this place seemed like where trash accumulated, except for Park Suho, though the food was exceptional. His companion nodded towards Granny, who was hurriedly cooking for 200 people, suggesting the food might not suffice. Their conversation was interrupted by a newcomer from the Suho Guild, who accidentally bumped into the soldier, provoking his ire. In a fit of anger, the soldier grabbed the newbie by the collar and shouted at him. Meanwhile, Gunwoo piled bread on a tray, attempting to escape while getting slapped in the face. Granny Sua, incensed, threw a knife, warning him not to touch the bread due to shortages. Ignoring her, Gunwoo leapt out of the window and offered the bread to monkeys nearby, leaving chaos in his wake. From the window, the healthy soldier spotted Gunwoo and inquired about his identity. His friend explained that Gunwoo was Park Suho's nephew, noting his agile movements reminiscent of an awakened monkey. The soldier commented on Granny's sharp aim with the knives and expressed frustration over nearly being hit. His friend retorted that it was because Gunwoo had caused a scene, asking if he was prepared to face consequences similar to those faced by Lee Soo. Curious, the soldier questioned if Granny was also part of Park Suho's family and remarked on the apparent eccentricity within that family. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a man Wu sat with the director in an office. The director asked why he was there, to which he responded that they planned to initiate the raid that day. The director hesitated, suggesting the soldiers had just arrived and might benefit from a day's rest. The man disagreed, stating they had already rested enough and had sent cooperation requests to each guild, adjusting plans for additional combat teams. He implored the director to trust them if they still thought more manpower was unnecessary. The man clarified it wasn't about trust, but efficiency, highlighting the potential losses even Lee Suong's renowned team had faced. For their country, which lacked manpower compared to Japan, any casualties would be significant. He emphasized the need to proceed cautiously, to avoid jeopardizing future raids, especially with elite forces en route from Boos. The director acknowledged his points and agreed to keep Unit 707 on standby for one more day. Meanwhile, in the camps, Choi Soo-young slept as Kim Miso approached, playfully tossing a fire fairy at her. Kim Miso teased Soo-young for not greeting them properly upon her return after a long absence, questioning why she was just resting. Soo-young replied that being away had been preferable. Kim Miso teased her about Park Suho's influence, prompting Soo-young to question what that had to do with her. What will happen next? Find out next time by staying tuned for our future recaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great recaps.